Chapter 1698. Raising his head and looking at Chu Yang's complicated gaze, the Dharma Supreme smiled bitterly. There's no need to doubt it. Even if I were to fight you to the death, the result would probably be the same. Because the true power of this move of yours has already surpassed the power of heaven and earth. I would definitely not be able to withstand it. Therefore, there's no such thing as me letting you win on purpose. Chu Yang nodded silently and said, I know. Chu Yang could clearly sense that at that moment, the Dharma Supreme was indeed completely suppressed by his sword aura. His life and death were in his hands. This was a subtle feeling of having complete control over the battle and victory. It couldn't be faked at all. Even my boss has never used such a move before. But I can feel that this is the true power of the Calamity Sword, its ultimate power. The Dharma Supreme smiled in relief and said, in the past, the Sword of Calamity, or at least the Sword of Calamity of the same generation as me, was just a sword so sharp that it could not be blocked. However, the move today has already exceeded its original scope. To be able to see this move, I'm very happy, really happy. The Dharma Supreme smiled warmly. Looking at the Calamity Sword in his chest, he was filled with heartfelt love and endless nostalgia. Yes, before this, I also didn't expect the Calamity Sword to have such a change. Chu Yang said honestly, but I can feel that even the move just now may not be the ultimate move of the Calamity Sword. I believe that the Calamity Sword still has unlimited room for improvement. Indeed, the path of the Calamity Sword is endless. Moreover, every move of the Calamity Sword contains a world. The Dharma Supreme smiled and said, although this is just my personal feeling, I believe that this is also extremely close to the truth. In fact, the true power of every move of the Calamity Sword could be much stronger than the so-called strongest move you've used now. He actually winked a little mischievously and actually joked, saying, you have to know that I'm about to die. And people who are about to die always have very sharp and accurate senses. They can also see some things that living people can't see. But don't ask me what the source is. I only know it but not why. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, if you had known earlier, could today have been avoided? No. The Dharma Supreme said solemnly, even if I already knew 1,000 years ago, today's battle is unavoidable. Chu Yang was silent. Don't be sad for me, I'm very happy now. I was very happy. Do you know what I'm so happy about? The Dharma Supreme looked into the void. Even though he was about to die, his face was filled with joy. There wasn't the slightest hint of hypocrisy. What are you happy about? Chu Yang was indeed rather surprised by the Dharma Supreme's attitude. Regardless of whether the Dharma Supreme was upset, remorseful, angry, or even relieved or indifferent, Chu Yang would not be too surprised. But now, the Dharma Supreme was actually in a state of extreme joy. This attitude was simply too illogical. I'm so happy that everyone is here to welcome me. The Dharma Supreme chuckled. He pointed at his surroundings with a warm expression on his face. My father, my mother, my grandfather. All of the comrades that I used to fight alongside in the past. And all of the enemies that I've killed. Now that they are all by my side, I know that that world really does exist. It's real. Chu Yang's eyes widened. Then, did you see? The Dharma Supreme laughed and said, it was only then that I realized that in this world there is no one. There is no such thing as the destruction of one's spirit and eternal damnation. Even if one is completely burned, the last bit of soul imprint will also turn into the purest of life force. Perhaps one won't remember everything that happened during one's lifetime, but it definitely won't disappear completely. It's only forgotten, not completely abandoned. Over there, even Yi Qinshan and the rest are here looking at me. The Dharma Supreme pointed to the side and smiled. What I'm really happiest about is that I didn't see my big brother and my 8 brothers. Chu Yang raised his head abruptly. My friends and enemies are all here, but my big brother and my 8 brothers are not. This means that not only are my 8 brothers not dead, even my big brother is not dead. The Dharma Supreme smiled happily and said, this is great. Chu Yang frowned slightly. The Dharma Supreme's words were incoherent and completely illogical. Could it be that his mind was in a mess when he was on the brink of death? Or could it be that he was hallucinating and wanted to redeem the biggest regret of his life at the end of his life? The Dharma Supreme keenly saw his misgivings and laughed. Chu Yang, if it were anyone else at this point, they would already be unable to speak to you, but I'm different. If it were in the Heavenly Imperial Court, under the high pressure of the Heavenly Imperial Court, I might have already disappeared, but this is the Heavenly Imperial Court after all. My cultivation has already exceeded the limits of this plane, so even if I'm supposed to die, my heart and soul can still resist the laws of life and death of this world for a while. Although it's only for a while, just to delay the moment of my dissipation. The Dharma Supreme laughed. I'm really not muddle-headed. I just want you to share my happiness now and my peace of mind. I can really have no regrets. Chu Yang was stunned for a moment and said, I understand. Lastly, I want to ask you for one thing. The Dharma Supreme looked straight at Chu Yang and said, please promise me. Chu Yang sighed and said, I know, I promise you. He really knew what the Dharma Supreme was asking of him. At this time, Gu Duxing and the rest had already reached the front of the black fog. They rushed in impatiently, but suddenly realized that there was no resistance at all inside. They rushed in immediately. Then they saw such a strange scene in front of them. Everyone couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise, their eyes wide open. No one would have thought that there would be such a situation inside. Only Mo Tianji, who had already reached the Calamity Sword that was still shining with a mysterious purple light that was stuck in the Dharma Supreme's chest, sighed deeply. The Dharma Supreme looked at everyone calmly and said, Everyone, I was just about to make a request to Sword Master Chu. Since everyone is here, I'll tell everyone this request together. You are all the people I've asked for, so there's no need to trouble Calamity Sword Master to relay it. My request is, after you kill your way into the Heavenly Imperial Court, please don't mention the name Diwu Cho-Chang again. The Dharma Supreme's eyes were filled with bitterness. I'm the Dharma Supreme. The Heavenly Demon Seed, the Demon of Calamity, is the Dharma Supreme. Chu Yang nodded solemnly. No one will mention it again. You can rest assured about this. What you value, we value as well. Mo Chinji pondered and said with some regret, Don't you want to say something else? Yes. The Dharma Supreme nodded heavily. His eyes were filled with the most sincere and even pious look, as if he could kneel down at any time if necessary. He said, In the future, if you meet my big brother, my brothers, if you can help, please help. The Dharma Supreme took in a deep breath and said, Everyone else has their own think tanks and helpers who can come up with ideas and strategies. But my brothers don't. My brothers can only rely on themselves to charge forward and fight. It's too hard on them. Too hard on them. He looked at Mo Chinji sincerely and pleadingly. Mo Chinji, I beg of you, please take care of my brothers. Please. Mo Chinji had always been calm, but at this moment he felt his eyes heat up inexplicably. He said subconsciously, I promise you. The Dharma Supreme turned to Chu Yang. Chu Yang, as the current master of Calamity Sword, my brothers are mostly straightforward men. Sometimes they don't think too much when they do things. If they offend you in any way in the future, please be understanding and be as tolerant as possible. He smiled sadly. My brothers have been up there for many years. In terms of strength, I believe that they are far above all of you now. However, I also believe that, in the future, all of you are destined to go much further than them. Because all of you are, after all, the last tribulation, the last legend, the last legend. All of you will be the key figures in the future. So please, the Dharma Supreme bowed deeply. With his injuries, this was already the most he could do. Everyone returned the bow solemnly. Faced with such a request, the brothers only felt heartfelt warmth and bitterness. For a moment, the disgust and hatred towards the Dharma Supreme for what he had done in the past seemed to be no longer in their hearts. Because, if they were in such a state, this was the only request they could make. According to my initial plan, I would force all of you out for the last strike and only have a final head-on confrontation with Sword Master Chu. Then, at the most crucial moment, I would let go of all of you and let myself die under the Calamity Sword. The Dharma Supreme smiled bitterly. Originally, everything was going smoothly according to my plan. But I never expected that the true power of the Calamity Sword would appear and I would be completely defenseless. There is a limit to a person's scheming. Humans may be able to win against the heavens, but it is not something I can do. Take it that I did something unnecessary. Diwu Cho-Chang's wisdom was second to none in the entire heavenly layer. Even if Diwu Qingru and Mo Tianji had the same level of wisdom, they still lacked the wisdom accumulated over a long period of time. In this final battle of the heavenly layer, the entire battle situation was almost under his control. There were few mistakes. It was only at the last moment that he missed out on an unexpected change, but it was not due to his wisdom. This achievement could really be said to be unprecedented and unprecedented. Everyone grinned. They wanted to go along with him and smile, but they only felt that their hearts were heavy to the point of extreme depression. They could not bring themselves to smile. Even if I die, I can only die under the Calamity Sword. This was originally my final wish. Although it was somewhat different from my original plan, the result is still the same. The Dharma Supreme chuckled and looked at the Calamity Sword in his heart affectionately. He said, "Looking at this sword I feel so close. Even though this sword is going to take my life, it is still so affectionate." Chapter 1699. Faced with such a Dharma Supreme, everyone actually couldn't help but say, "Shami?" The Dharma Supreme looked at the Calamity Sword with great longing. He reached out his hand and gently touched the sharp edge of the sword outside his chest. His face was full of satisfaction and blushing. His voice actually trembled a little as he let out a long sigh. "Brother, brother, brother?" His voice was filled with deep affection and longing. That kind of nostalgia, that kind of bitterness. Drop after drop of tears fell down. Some of the tears coincidentally fell on the Calamity Sword's blade and flowed along the sword's blade into Z's chest. The Dharma Supreme opened his mouth and breathed out softly as if he was suffocating. Finally, he said in a trembling voice, "I'm going to leave soon. We won't meet again. Swordmaster Chu, don't forget your promise to me." Chu Yang's heart was bitter. He said, "I will never forget. Diwu Chochang, the former tribulation Diwu, you are destined to be recorded in history. In the hearts of your brothers, you will only be the Diwu Chochang of the past. There will never be any change. The ones who bring disaster to the world are only the heavenly demon seed and the Dharma Supreme." Diwu Chochang's pupils dilated a little. He seemed to ask subconsciously, "Is that so? Is that true?" Then a childlike innocent smile appeared on his face. He murmured, "If that's true, how happy would I be?" He quieted down. After a long time, he slowly recited in a low voice, "Life and death are but empty. Brothers are also concerned about love. I hate that I have no power of reincarnation." He seemed to want to recite a poem that he would recite before his death. However, his voice became softer and softer. Chu Yang moved closer to his ear, wanting to hear what he said at the end. However, the Dharma Supreme had completely lost his breath. His eyes were full of longing and his face was full of regret. His fingers were still touching the Calamity Sword longingly, but he had become dead silent. He was dead. Infinite melancholy awaits the next life. Chu Yang sighed softly and continued the last line of the poem. Perhaps Diwu Chochang didn't think so. However, this line was Chu Yang's blessing for him. To this person who had overturned the world and destroyed it. Yet he was filled with infinite melancholy, infinite regret, and infinite sorrow. My sincere blessings. Chu Yang exerted force in his hand, wanting to pull out the Calamity Sword. However, at this moment, the Dharma Supreme's motionless body dissipated, turning into specks of light. Starting from his limbs, it gradually turned into nothingness. The longing in his eyes, the regret on his face. Finally, they turned into specks of light that danced in the air. Then, they were extinguished one by one until they disappeared from the world. Between heaven and earth, only the purple Calamity Sword was left standing where Fang Zun was originally standing. The blade of the sword was as bright as water. It flashed quietly in the air. Then, the Calamity Sword suddenly emitted an abnormally strong suction force. Like a whale sucking in water, it instantly sucked all the demonic mist into the Calamity Sword, leaving nothing behind. Dawn reappeared between heaven and earth. In just a short moment, the demonic aura disappeared. It was completely restored to the clear sky and bright sun. The sky was bright and beautiful. The mountains and rivers stretched for thousands of miles, giving off an auspicious and peaceful image. Chu Yang and Mo Tianji looked at the void in front of them with disappointment and frustration. At the same time, he sighed softly. Then each and every one of the brothers couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Diwu Chong had passed away. However, that melancholy feeling between heaven and earth didn't dissipate for a long time. In life, one really can't take a wrong step. A single slip will lead to everlasting regret. If one wants to look back, it would have been 10,000 years. One must never take a wrong step. Mo Tianji sighed deeply. A sigh drifted in the void and dissipated. Everyone below had been waiting anxiously for a long time. All of them looked at the sky anxiously. Their necks were sore from looking up. Finally, one by one, the figures appeared out of thin air. They were Chu Yang and the rest. When everyone below saw that Chu Yang and the rest were all intact, they heaved a sigh of relief. Their hearts could finally be at ease. Instantly, cheers erupted. Chu Yang had just landed when Moon Breeze and the rest surrounded him. Where's the Dharma Supreme? He didn't escape, right? He's dead. Chu Yang sighed and said, his body and soul were destroyed. He died under the Calamity Sword. Sigh. Moon Breeze and Moon Breeze's faces were filled with both joy and melancholy. They said softly, "Debt is good too. It can be considered his release." Mo Tianji said solemnly, "The Dharma Supreme is the Dharma Supreme. He's not anyone else. Everyone please remember this." Wu Jueqing, Ling Muyang and the rest nodded deeply. Clearly, everyone understood the meaning behind Mo Tianji's words with their rich experience over the years. The Dharma Supreme's merits and demerits could no longer be judged. Now that he was dead, everything would return to nothingness. Since there was no final conclusion, death was the most important thing. It turned into a sigh. Chu Lihar came over with Tai Yang in her arms. "Big brother." When Chu Yang turned around, he was shocked. "Why is this little one here? Who brought him here? Isn't this nonsense?" The little guy stuck a finger into his mouth and bit it. He had an adorable look on his face as he looked at Chu Yang timidly. Then he called out in a childish voice, "Daddy?" Chu Yang shuddered. He grabbed him and held him in his arms. He asked, "How did you get here? Where's your mother? Is she okay?" The little guy blinked playfully. "Mother is fine. I came here secretly this time. I'm coming out now." Before he finished, he was slapped on the butt. "You little bastard, aren't you asking for your mother's life? How dare you do this?" Chu Yang was furious. After the slap, he felt his heart ache. He was about to comfort him when Feng Yuro snatched him away and said angrily, "How can you hit a child when you're still young? Are you still a father? You don't know how to control your strength, you bastard." Chu Yang was stunned. His son was taught a lesson, reprimanded and even called a bastard. Looking at Feng Yuro, he couldn't help but scratch his head. "Is this my son or your son? Why are you more concerned than me? Do we have the same value as you? Is this what you call a shitty matter?" "Daddy, I came out this time to discuss something with you. It's a very important matter." The little guy waved his chubby little hands and explained righteously. Chu Yang snorted. "What does a little kid like you know? You actually want to discuss a shitty matter with your father? Something important? Is this what you call a shitty matter?" At the side, Mo Qingwu, who was dressed in red, looked at Tai Yang with a complicated gaze. She said softly, "Chu Yang, is this really your son? Tai Butian's matter." Mo Qingwu had known about it a long time ago. The twists and turns of this matter. Mo Qingwu had also tried to find out about it in detail. However, the moment she saw Tai Yang, Mo Qingwu's heart was still very complicated. Mo Qingwu naturally liked the lively and tender child from the bottom of her heart. But towards his subtle nature, she more or less felt a knot in her heart. Chu Yang scratched his head. Knowing that the real trouble had come, he went up and was about to explain when he saw the little guy sneakily poking his head out and looking at Mo Qingwu. He said, "Daddy, is this the Qingwu mommy that mother always says she's sorry to?" Chu Yang was stunned, but he saw Mo Qingwu's face glowing. Little Tai Yang's one sentence was better than a certain king of hell's 10 sentences. She had said 100 sentences. But the sentence, "Mother often says that she's sorry to Mother Qingwu," instantly neutralized all the obstacles in Mo Qingwu's heart. She went forward and asked somewhat nervously, "Your mother really said that?" The little guy nodded vigorously, his expression pure and innocent. "Qingwu mommy, you're so beautiful. You look so friendly. So gentle. So considerate. How did I get such a beautiful mother? I'm so blessed." Mo Qingwu fainted instantly, her heart inexplicably happy. She clapped her hands and said, "Then, baby, let Qingwu mommy hug you, okay?" Ignoring Chu Lihar's strong attempts to stop him, the little guy eagerly reached out his hands. "Wow, I love being hugged by the friendly and gentle Qingwu mommy the most. So cute. What's your name?" "Mother calls me Little Yang." "Little Yang. What a nice name. Qingwu mommy, do you have a good relationship with my mother?" "Ha. I always heard from my mother that you'll be the best in her generation." "Really?" "Of course I never lie." Your mother is also a good person? Qingwu mommy is even better?" "Yes, yes, we're all good people." Looking at Mo Qingwu playing in circles with the child in her arms, the adult and the child letting out pure and happy laughter from time to time, Chu Yang's eyes widened so much that they almost popped out of their sockets. As for Gu Duxing and the others, they stared at each other even more. You and I stared at each other. The problem that Chu Yang was most worried about previously was completely solved with just a few sentences from Rang Er, and it was solved without any trace. The whole thing was natural, harmonious, and logical. Moreover, it also laid a solid foundation for Mo Qingwu and Tai Butian to get along in the future. In Mo Qingwu's eyes, such a small child naturally wouldn't lie and wouldn't lie. Usually, children of this age wouldn't even talk about sex. What? How could they lie? So Imo Qingwu naturally believed it. But even if Imo Qingwu combined all the wisdom of her previous and current lives, she would never have thought that the little guy in ZJ's arms was really a huge freak. Of course, there were still a few prerequisites for this. First, Imo Qingwu loved Chuyang deeply. Second, Chuyang had always been very honest about everything. Third, Tai Budian had long accepted Imo Qingwu's existence. Fourth, Imo Qingwu's memories from her previous life had recovered. Although the memories of this life were still dominant, the rationality and habitual obedience of her previous life still existed subconsciously in Chuyang. None of these conditions could be missing. Without any one of them, it would be difficult to achieve the current result. Even Imo Tianji, who was supposed to have the most opinions, was rubbing his chin at this moment. He didn't say anything and just shook his head vigorously. Jiang, I say, this son of yours is really too smart. Demon. Demon? Thank you to the brothers and sisters who have followed us all the way till now. Thank you. Today is the birthday of the Alliance Master, Pegasus Meteor Kick. Let us wish him a happy birthday. Pegasus Meteor Kick, a very patient uncle. As long as he appeared in the group, his first sentence would definitely be an emoticon. His first expression would definitely be facial paralysis. Chapter 1700. Chuyang rubbed his chin and had the same expression as Imo Tianji. He said, "Don't you know whose son he is? Intelligence is a must. So what if he's monstrous? Aren't you monstrous too?" Imo Qingwu was already carrying Tai Yang and searching for gifts one by one. The first one was, of course, Imo Tianji. "Little Yang, this is your uncle. Greet him." "Hello, uncle." "Yes, take a gift from uncle. Don't stand on ceremony." Imo Tianji was dumbfounded and his face turned green. This sister of his sold him out the moment she turned around? I know. Uncle must have the best things. The little guy innocently stretched out his chubby hand and said innocently, "If the things aren't good, uncle would be embarrassed to take them out." Imo Tianji's face immediately turned green. "This is Uncle Du Xing." "Hello, Uncle Du Xing. Don't stand on ceremony if you want a gift from Uncle Du Xing. We're all good brothers of your father." Gu Du Xing's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Looking at the little pink hand in front of him, he had no choice but to smile stiffly. Then he began to rummage through his storage ring. What exactly did he have that was suitable for a child? And it had to be suitable for this kid. This was really a headache. Although it wasn't the other brothers' turn yet, they had already started to open their rings and search. Because they seemed to be good brothers of a certain father, each of them was sweating profusely. This was the first nephew among the brothers. And very likely to be the next big boss. Looking at this little guy's intelligence, the words "very likely" might have to be deleted. It became, definitely the next big boss. This gift definitely couldn't be sloppy. But, what should be a good gift? "Uncles, don't be troubled. I don't mind. I really don't mind." The little guy smiled cutely, revealing his missing front teeth. "Actually, I don't like children's toys the most. My mother always said that a man shouldn't lose himself in playing with things. So, I'm more interested in some heavenly treasures." Although I don't know what heavenly treasures are, the 7 or 8 brothers did a somersault in unison. It was too shocking. Damn it, this little rascal is really Chu Yang's son. He has the same hobby as you. Likes heavenly treasures? This. If it was a child's toy, he didn't have it even now. But weren't they walking towards the capital now? As long as they entered the city, they would be able to get as many as they wanted. What was the point? So what if they were given away every day, but this heaven and earth treasure, oh my god. He couldn't even take out 1,000-year-old ginseng, could he? Over the past few years, brothers. Apart from the common gains, everyone still had some personal belongings. However, those personal belongings would undoubtedly be emptied out today. Uncles, don't worry. If I have younger brothers and sisters in the future, I will take good care of them and play with them. The little fellow smiled innocently. I really look forward to it. The brothers immediately glared at each other. This was definitely a threat. This little bastard. Everyone's face darkened and they were dumbfounded. I'm at a loss of what to do. Holy crap, big brother Chuyang, what kind of child did you give birth to? Help, we didn't give you a greeting gift and you want to torment our child? Damn it. Looking at the commotion over there, Chuyang's eyes followed the little figure. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. Yes, how many battles and difficulties had he gone through? How many storms, how many seasons had he gone through? Through wind, frost, rain and snow he fought against torrents and went through hardships. His infatuation didn't change. Even a young man with lofty aspirations was troubled. Cough, 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 from having nothing in the lower three heavens and being weak, all the way until now when he had transcended beyond the limits of the heavenly layer. With a stomp of his feet, the martial world would tremble, and with a cough, mountains and rivers would bow down. How much had he sacrificed? How much had he gone through? How many times had he narrowly escaped death? How many times had he circled in front of the king of hell's palace? How many times had he traveled to hell? Finally, today he had reached the pinnacle. He held the heavens in his hands. The world was in his hands and heaven and earth trembled because of him. But was all this worth it? At this moment, Chu Yang only felt that there wasn't much joy in his heart. Then he had a feeling, actually, standing at the pinnacle and standing on flat ground were essentially the same, they were both standing on the ground. Only with one's feet on the ground would one's heart be the most stable. It's just that there are always some differences between high and low. Chu Yang smiled bitterly in his heart. The Moon Breeze couple had already walked over. Sword Master Chu. Yes, seniors. Chu Yang sorted out his thoughts. What's the matter? Yu Lingxue smiled bitterly and said, now that the Dharma Supreme is dead and the law enforcement force is only in name now. All the core forces have been wiped out, and the entire heavenly layer is practically a wasteland. As for what to do in the future, we still need everyone to discuss and come up with an idea. Speaking of this, Chu Yang also had a headache. After scratching his head for a long time, he finally squeezed out a sentence. This matter, it's not very appropriate to talk about it here. After all, it involves quite a lot of places. Let's go back and sit down. Let's talk about it slowly. Both Mo Tianji and Diwu Qingru must be present, and then some of the remaining forces on this continent must also be informed. In short, although this mess is very difficult to clean up, it can always be cleaned up slowly. He actually wanted to say, I'm leaving anyway, that's your business? But he didn't dare to say it out loud. If he said it out loud, he would probably be beaten up by the crowd. The Moon Breeze couple was actually extremely conflicted about this as well. They both nodded and then sighed. Looking at the mountain of corpses over there, Chu Yang also had a headache. He dragged Rui Badong over. How long are you going to burn them like this? Quickly give me the Nirvana flame. Quickly get it over with. Rui Badong sat down on the ground, almost crying. Boss, do you think the Nirvana flame is as simple as striking a flint? You said it so easily and happily. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. What? Do you have other ideas? Rui Badong surrendered with a sullen face. I'll go, okay. Damn it, I was just extorted and ordered around, why am I always so unlucky? At this moment, the capital city could be said to be in ruins, full of devastation. Although there was no battle in the city, the strong aftershocks of this final battle had also destroyed countless houses. There were almost no intact houses in the entire city. The Yi clan courtyard, the grandest residence in the capital city in the past, was now dead silent, with corpses everywhere. This was the work of the law enforcement officers who had carried out the Dharma Supreme's sneak attack on the women and children of the Yi clan. At this moment, corpses were everywhere, fresh blood flowing, green flies flying here and there. When Chu Yang and the others saw this scene, they all felt a sense of desolation in their hearts. The world had changed so many times. Just a few months ago, the Yi clan was still the most dazzling clan on this continent. Now, the clan had been destroyed and there were almost no descendants of the Yi clan left in the world. Not to mention a long time ago, even if this was said a month ago. Who would believe it? He ordered the remaining warriors of the Ling clan to open all the Yi clan's storehouses and take their treasures to help the people in the city. Now, only the Ling clan still had some people left. The other clans were basically all dead. Looking at the Yi clan's incomparably huge storehouse, Chu Lur was deeply moved. Just a year ago she was still wantonly plundering here. Now there was not a single person left in this clan. The world sighed and the world turned into mulberry fields. As for the items in the Yi clan's storehouse, other than a few essential elixirs, Chu Yang did not touch any of the other treasures. The sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. Diwu Qingru came from afar, his face full of pain and sorrow. There was also a faint sense of helplessness. What's the matter? I just received the latest news. My Diwu clan was also unable to avoid this catastrophe. Everyone in the clan, except for me, are all dead. Diwu Qingru smiled bitterly, but his eyes were already glistening with tears. Everyone was speechless. They really did not expect that even the rising Diwu clan would be destroyed. Diwu Qingru shook his head repeatedly, smiling sadly. For a moment he did not know what to say. Even someone as wise and steady as him also had mixed feelings in his heart at this moment. The Dharma Supreme was Diwu Chochang in the past, and also the ancestor of the Diwu clan. The destruction of the world this time actually wiped out his own clan, which was reborn from the ashes. Regarding this matter, people really did not know what to say. Diwu Qingru had previously put in so much effort and finally saw the light of hope for the revival of the Diwu clan, but it was destroyed by his own ancestor. Thinking of the effort and wisdom that Diwu Qingru had put in for this matter, this really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Cold-blooded? Heartless? Ruthless? The hearts of Chu Yang and the others were as heavy as lead. The Dharma Supreme, no, it should be Diwu Chochang for the sake of Jingzhong, had indeed gone to the extreme, even sacrificing his own clan. This kind of hatred, this kind of intention, whether it was Chu Yang, Mo Tianji or anyone else, they knew that they would not be able to do it. A few days later, everyone arrived at the capital, which meant that those who should be here were all here. Then, everyone began to brainstorm and discuss the future path of reconstruction. The apocalyptic catastrophe that the Dharma Supreme had launched this time covered a wide area. Just as he had said, not only the upper three heavens, even the lower three heavens had been swept by it. In the entire heavens, only the lower three heavens had luckily escaped because its level was too low. After a few days of discussion, it was finally decided that Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro would jointly assume the position of the new Dharma Supreme and restructure the authority of the law enforcement officers. And Diwu Qingru would be specially appointed as the chief military advisor of the law enforcement officers, becoming the third person in charge of the affairs of the world. Assigning this position to Diwu Qingru was definitely a stroke of genius. With Diwu Qingru's meticulous mind, this arrangement would undoubtedly save him a lot of trouble. Among the original law enforcement officers, only Han Xiaoran from the southeast region was left. Han Xiaoran was promoted to become the law enforcement officer of the world, supervising all the law enforcement officers in the world. Today is also the birthday of our alliance master, Father. Everyone definitely does not know that Father is our Huyan Aobua, Sister Yu. Congratulations to our Sister Yu on her birthday. Every year there will be a day like this. Forever young and beautiful, with a lonely love that lasts forever. Chapter 1701. Han Xiaoran was upright and outspoken. He enforced the law impartially. Everyone in the world admired him. It was natural for him to take over as the law enforcement master of the world. As for the team directly under Han Xiaoran, it was made up of Sha Xinliang, Qin Baoshan, Wan Renjie, Cheng Duying and the officers under Lang Yilong. Of course, there were almost no law enforcement officers left now. The so-called supervision was just a nominal term. Their real duty at this stage was to monitor the world and guard against thieves. Especially at this moment when a myriad of things were waiting to be done, there would surely be many unrighteous people that would take advantage of the situation, and it just so happened that there was a need for a formidable force to stop them. However, in order to control the world, one must have considerable power and strength, especially Han Xiaoran, the law enforcement master of the world. Therefore, when Chu Yang took out the heavy pill and fed it to Han Xiaoran, he also gave him a cup of wine. Once Han Xiaoran's worries were completely resolved, he also gave him a cup of wine. 1 cup of wine, hundreds of years of cultivation. As for Sha Xinliang, Qin Baoshan, Wan Renjie and the others, they would naturally be promoted as well. It was just that when Wan Renjie and the others came, they had sighed for a long time. The Chen clan was exterminated, but it wasn't exterminated by their own hands. Wan Renjie and Cheng Duying felt guilty towards their old friends. After Chu Yang's persuasion, they finally felt a little better. After receiving the appointment that night, Chu Yang, Wan Renjie and the others immediately set off to pay their respects to Wei Wuyan. They buried Wei Wuyan's severed hand together with his body. At night, everyone got drunk in front of Wei Wuyan's grave. Thinking back to the changes in the situation when they left the northwest, he still felt like it was a dream. As for the northwest side, it was assigned to the 3 Stars Divine clan to recuperate and build up strength. In order to keep the various clans in check and balance, the law enforcement officers specially invited Elder Yu of the Elf clan, Gu Igu of the 3 Stars Divine clan, and a few other elders to serve as the law enforcement officers' guest elders. Regarding the fairness and impartiality of the law enforcement measures, all shall be treated equally and supervised. As for Jun Shizhu, the leader of the Dark Bamboo of the 3 Heavens, she had followed the instructions of the Moon Breeze couple. He also wanted to appoint a position to win over the head of the triad. However, Jun Shizhu had resolutely resigned. She had already taken her revenge. So, she no longer had any worries in her heart. She only wanted to stay in the upper 3 heavens. She had no interest in the higher level of the upper three heavens. At most, I will only visit my younger sister once in a while. Other than that, I don't even feel like coming to the upper three heavens. Jun Shizhu said, even the descendants of the tribulation are ungrateful. So, the geomancy of the upper three heavens isn't necessarily good either. So, they disdain to live here for a long time. Everyone smiled bitterly. This sentence could be said to be somewhat extreme. But then he remembered the Jun family's 10,000 years of injustice. However, he couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Wei, if you dare to bully Lulu, I will personally come and cut you up. After leaving behind such a valiant sentence, the triad boss of the three heavens triad walked away in a carefree manner. Duke Yu rubbed his nose. Under everyone's strange gazes, he almost wanted to stuff his head into his trousers. He had such a valiant aunt. Duke Yu could be considered to be very accommodating. Disregarding everything else, he could feel a chill in his crotch at all times. Cough. News came from the southeast. The Huang clan had also been attacked by the law enforcement officers. Except for Huang Xiaoyou and a few other people who came from afar to participate in the Tianding Grand Meeting, the rest of the high-level martial artists of the Huang clan were all killed. The only fortunate thing was that the Huang clan didn't belong to a big clan after all. So the law enforcement officers didn't kill them all. So the old, weak women and children were still alive. The high-level martial artists under Duke Huang were also included in the ranks of the law enforcement officers. They were under unified management and command. In addition, the Chu clan of the southeast announced that they would withdraw from the Jianghu. They had a high status and existed in the flat mountain ridge. They were in close cooperation with the law enforcement officers. However, they didn't come out unless it was necessary to live. The world was desolate. According to the words of the people who came here, there were a lot of people from the Jianghu on the road. However, after this catastrophe, the road was unexpectedly safe. There weren't many people from the Jianghu. The law enforcement officers purged the world. Their target wasn't just to purge the big clans. Based on the intelligence network of the law enforcement officers, almost all the martial artists in the world were within the scope of their intelligence. This time, almost all the martial artists who were above the martial emperor level were killed. Occasionally there were some who slipped through the net, but at most it was only 2 or 3 out of 10,000. It was a very vivid image of a hare on an ox. As the saying goes, heroes use martial arts to break the rules. It was precisely because martial artists had martial arts that they could be above ordinary people. Only when they had profound martial arts could they do things without any scruples and do as they pleased. One of the consequences of the Dharma Supreme's bloodbath was that the number of martial artists in the world was greatly reduced, especially the number of high-level martial artists. From this, it greatly reduced the number of martial artists who relied on their martial arts to do things without any scruples. From another perspective, it also formed a different meaning of stopping war. Whether it was a merit or a fault, it was up to the individual to decide. Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro led the remaining law enforcement officers to gradually reorganize the world. Then they would rest for a period of time, quietly waiting for the flames of war to rise again on the continent. By then, it would be time for the knowledgeable people to rise up and lead the masses to establish a new country and a new order. Of course, this process was also full of blood. However, this bloody process was necessary and even more necessary. Only after the bloodshed would there be empires standing tall. From then on, the days when the big clans dominated the world would never go away. It would return. Instead, it would be replaced by the rule of a dynasty. In the Yi clan's courtyard, they were discussing these important matters of the world in the future. Diwu Qingru, Mo Tianji and the others were all involved. Chu Yang carried the child and quietly walked out with Ning Tianya. Elder Ning, where will you go from here on out? Chu Yang asked casually. I don't intend to go up any more. Ning Tianya was rather bleak. He said, back when I went up and was chased down by Lord, this feeling of mine faded away. Besides, I also know that this so-called number 1 expert of mine can't survive in the heavenly imperial court. Otherwise, why would you ask me to come down? Can't someone else do it? Ning Tianya smiled casually. In life, there are some things and some experiences that you once had. It's enough. There's no need to force it. It's useless to force it. Chu Yang nodded in understanding. This elder had tens of thousands of years of experience and had long seen through the ways of the world. His mind was naturally deep and he was not stagnant in worldly affairs. There's just one thing. My disciple Qinggu, you must treat her better in the future. Ning Tianya smiled bitterly and said, when Tai Yang becomes the king, I shall be a state teacher in Iron Cloud of the lower 3 heavens. Yang was dumbfounded. State teacher? Ning Qinya? No matter what, he couldn't believe that such an impossible thing would happen. Ning Qinya's nature was like that of a wild crane. But he actually wanted to be a state teacher. Yang wouldn't be as surprised as he was at this moment even if a super unconventional person like Tan Tan suddenly became the Dharma Supreme. Ning Qinya smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think I'm willing? This official position is given to me by that baby of yours. Moreover, the reason why I don't go up is that I want to coldly look at the way of reincarnation in the lower three heavens. There's a path in the heavenly imperial court. There may not be no path in the human world. There may not be only one path for a cultivator to move forward." Yang slowly digested Ning Tianya's last sentence. He suddenly felt that he had benefited immensely. There may not be no path in the human world. There may not be only one path for a cultivator to move forward. Little, what do you want to discuss with me? Yang turned his hand and patted the little buttocks of his son who was riding on his neck. He only felt that the buttocks were tender and nice to the touch. So he couldn't help but pat them again. "I came here to ask you, father. I heard that your cultivation has reached the standard of the void-breaking realm. And you're about to leave this world. If you leave, what will happen to my mother?" The little guy was riding on Yang's neck. His tender little legs were swinging in front of Yang's chest. However, the words that came out of his mouth were like that of an adult. The moment he heard this, Yang's head started to hurt. "I've discussed this matter with your mother. I also have a secret method that can help your mother quickly improve her cultivation and follow me. However, you still need a long time to grow up. Your mother is shouldering the fate of Iron Cloud Nation and the heavy responsibility of the people. She can't bear to leave you, little bastard. She's unwilling to leave." Yang knew that his son was mischievous and had his own opinions. Moreover, his opinions were unique and not inferior to that of an adult. Therefore, he didn't really treat this little guy as an insensible child. Thinking of Tai Butian's determination, Yang really had a headache. In Yang's opinion, his woman should follow him without hesitation. What was the point of living in two different places, separated by heaven and earth? However, Tai Butian's choice was indeed to stay without hesitation. The reality was actually so cruel and melodramatic and super speechless to the point of driving one crazy. "I have an idea. But I need your cooperation." The little guy chuckled and leaned close to Yang's ear. "Wonderful." Yang was beaming with joy. He turned around and saw Ning Tianya. Rolling his eyes, he said to Ning Tianya, "Elder Ning, I may have to trouble you to make this trip." Ning Tianya said warily, "What for? You're not up to something again, are you?" "Elder Ning, you don't have to be so guarded against me, right? I just want to ask you to go to the lower three heavens and bring this little one's mother up. Firstly, let her know where her son is and be at ease. Secondly, let her acknowledge her ancestors. Thirdly, we have to discuss future matters again," said Yang. Yang knew very well that he couldn't go. If he went, there would be no real meaning in staying in the lower three heavens. Tai Butian might still be reluctant to come to the upper three heavens. It would be best to let Ning Tianya bring her up directly and settle everything here. With her son here, with Tai Butian's love for her child, there was no way she wouldn't come. "Yes, her son is that little girl's lifeline," Ning Tianya said cheerfully. "I see. There's no time to lose. I'll leave right away. Your family should indeed be reunited for a few days. In that case, I'll have to trouble you, Elder Ning." Watching Ning Tianya disappear at an extremely fast speed like a stream of light, Yang also felt relieved. The rest would be everyone's business. With the little guy's reminder, Yang thought of another matter. Once he and the others left, what would happen to everyone's families? Gu Duxing's sister Xiaomiao, Ji Mo's Huyan Albua, Xia Danxiong's wife, Ao Xian's concubines? Their brothers' families? What should they do about these? Chapter 1702. Abandon all of them? That was obviously impossible. Furthermore, no one would be willing to do that. If someone said that, Yang would probably beat that person to death. "Sai, let's discuss this with everyone." Yang frowned. Yang frowned. He felt a headache coming on. When you reach this level, you won't think so much. But now it's something you have to consider. Novel chapters are the fastest to update. What should we do? Once we go up, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to come back down. Otherwise, why hasn't anyone come down for so many years? Emotianji said, "So, we have to bring them along. But the problem is how to bring them up. They are obviously not strong enough. The difference is too big. Besides, once you get up there, you'll have to start from the very beginning. The road ahead will be filled with thorns and every step will be filled with danger. Life and death will be more difficult than the heavens. They don't even have the ability to protect themselves. It was late at night. The group of brothers gathered together to discuss this matter. All of them racked their brains but were unable to come up with a solution. Strength was a shortcoming. It was a problem that couldn't be solved. At this moment, everyone was envious of Dong Wuxiang. It seemed like this guy had it the easiest. That's why people say that simple people have good fortune. Mo Layer's YJ had also reached the limit, and even exceeded it. The two of them could fly up together without any worries. Dong Wuxiang frowned and thought hard. The more honest a person was, the less they would think. At the very least, he wasn't happy for ZJ at all. He was also relieved. Instead, he was feeling guilty. ZJ went up peacefully, but the brothers couldn't do it. ZJ was too much of a jerk. But what should they do? Dong Wuxiang's face turned black. Everyone sighed inside. They were all at their wits' end. Everyone looked at Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji finally panicked. Why are you all looking at me? Do you think I have a way to make them break through the void in one night? Do you really think I'm a god? Even gods don't have such great abilities. If there is no difficulty, we must do it. If there is a difficulty, we must do it. Even if there's no other way, we have to think of a way. GMO, Xie Danxiong and Ao Xie Yin didn't give up. We'll be separated by life and death this time. At the very least, we won't be able to see each other for a few decades. When we come back, it'll be really terrible. Perhaps in the end, a beautiful woman's hair will turn white, the sea will change into mulberry fields, or even death. How about none of us go up? Tan Tan tugged at ZJ's hair. You can be a king here, and you even have a beautiful woman to accompany you. Life is beautiful. That's all there is to it. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. We still need someone to come and pick us up. He reckoned that YJNG was being lenient. I think someone must be manipulating this to let us prepare for this. Also, the Sky Demon's descent should be a training for us. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive this ordeal. Otherwise, with the cultivation of the Dharma Supreme, he shouldn't have stayed here. Besides, the Chongtian continent has always been different from other planes. In other planes, as long as one reaches the level of Supreme Master, one can break through the void. But here, one needs to reach the peak of Supreme Master before one can ascend. Now, after we leave, perhaps this restriction will be the same as the other planes. Chu Yang frowned as he analyzed. The more he analyzed, the more his head hurt. This is all a fucking matter. God, you're not playing with us, are you? Everyone sighed together. Actually, I have a way that isn't really a way. In the tribulation space. The sword spirit said weakly, it's just that. Even if we really go up, there will be a certain amount of risk. Why don't we not talk about it? Chu Yang was shocked. What kind of method is this? Tell me. You still have one, right? Tell me quickly. The sword spirit said, I remember telling you that although our tribulation space can grow heavenly treasures, it can't store living things. But now that you've obtained the 8th fragment of the tribulation sword, you can store a few living people in it. Also, with the current tribulation space, even if you store a few hundred people, you can still fit them in. But in this way, there are a few concerns that must be solved beforehand. First, they are not strong enough. The Heaven's Imperial Court is the realm of the strong, and its pressure is far greater than that of ordinary planes. The gravity is even stronger. Even the most ordinary plane is several times stronger than that of the Heaven's continent. Their bodies may not be able to bear it. Chu Yang said without hesitation, That's good, Renji. Although we don't have enough resources to make them break through the void like us, it's still a problem for us to slowly raise them to first-grade supreme martial artist. You can continue with your other concerns. The second concern is that after you go up, you may not be able to gather together. The chances of you splitting up are more than 50%. And these people are all with you, so you need to take care of them. You have to be careful. You don't have any foundation in the Heaven's Imperial Court. You won't even have the most basic place to stay. The sword spirit said, Master won't help you with this. Chu Yang pondered for a while and said, This isn't a big problem. The first thing to do after we go up is to solve this problem. At most, if we don't solve it, everyone will still have to wait in the tribulation space for a while. That's fine. It's better than going out and losing our lives. There's a third concern, and it's also the biggest one. After you go up, you'll face countless hardships. There's a great chance that you'll be in danger at every step. You won't have the energy to take care of them. The sword spirit smiled bitterly. Chu Yang sighed. This was really a big problem. There was nothing wrong with it. It was his duty to take care of his brothers' families. But he was afraid that if he didn't take care of them well and someone got hurt, what should he do? In such an unknown world, China's strength was at the bottom of the food chain. How could everything go according to plan? That was the Heaven's Imperial Court, where one could kill a person every 10 steps. Danger was everywhere. It wasn't like the peace and prosperity of the lower 3 heavens. Chu Yang finally couldn't help but sigh. The brothers turned to look at him. Chu Yang pondered and said, "I do have a way to bring all of them up." But, as he spoke, he told them about the 3 concerns that the sword spirit had considered. When everyone heard it, they couldn't make up their minds. If they couldn't solve these 3 concerns, they might as well not bring them up. Even if they were separated for a while, it was still better than losing their lives. If we can raise them to first-grade supreme martial artists, they'll be able to survive in the Heaven's Imperial Court. If they keep a low profile, there shouldn't be any problems. Mo Qinji pondered and said, the men should keep a low profile and the women should cover up their appearances. This way they shouldn't attract any trouble. And with boss taking care of them, even if we're separated, we'll be at ease. I have some concerns about this. Gu Duxing said, that's right, this is fine. Everyone nodded and agreed. It's just that boss will have to work a little too hard. What's a little hard? I'm just worried that if I don't take good care of them, I won't be able to face my brothers in the future. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. Qinji, the other concern you mentioned just now is a little hard? The other concern is more or less vulgar, but it's also a problem that we have to face. Mo Qinji smiled faintly and said, after we go up, it's certain that we'll go our separate ways. I don't know when we'll be together again. So this period of time will be very long, so long that ordinary women can't afford to wait. Gu Duxing and the others fell silent again. Yes, age is easy and youth flows like water. A woman's youthful appearance would only last for a few years at most. How could they let their beauties wait for nothing? After decades, their brothers would still be as handsome as before, but their beauties would have wrinkled skin and white hair. If that was the case, how could they endure it? Whether it was the brothers or each other's beauties, none of them would be able to accept it. If that was really the case, everyone would rather die than live. Chu Yang smiled and said, this isn't a big problem. I can refine elixirs that can preserve one's youthful appearance, so that everyone's beauties will not age. Of course, this elixir also requires everyone's cultivation. If your cultivation can't be raised, you can only maintain your youthful appearance for a few decades. That's all. A few decades is more or less enough. Mo Qinji made a prompt decision. Then it's decided. The brothers nodded. Their faces were heavy as they pondered. This meant that after they rushed up to the Heaven Imperial Court, everyone only had a few decades to develop. In these few decades, even if they couldn't rush to the peak, they would at least have a place. Otherwise, their previous concerns would still be a problem that couldn't be solved. With the talents of us brothers, within 3 to 5 years, we can reach the peak of the Heaven Imperial Court. Can't we establish a firm foothold in the Heaven Imperial Court in a few decades? Mo Qinji said decisively. After this matter is over, we will immediately go home. As for the people who are willing to come with us, bring them here. As for the others, let the boss worry about it. Who asked him to be our boss? Mo Qinji gave everyone more time to think. For this kind of matter, the more they thought about it, the more they had doubts. It was better to cut the Gordian knot and make a decision. Otherwise, even if they discussed for another year, the result would be the same today. There wouldn't be a better solution. What everyone lacks the most now is Zhan. After everyone goes back, the main thing to ask about is our families. Mo Qinji's eyes revealed a bitter expression. The brothers also sighed in unison. Everyone was sighing. Everyone was well aware of it. But no one said it out loud. Yes, this time, Jianghu will come home with me to bid farewell to her parents. Mo Qinji said to Chu Yang. I'll go. Chu Yang nodded silently. Everyone was also silent. Mo Qinji's bid farewell to her parents was tantamount to explaining everything. Chapter 1703. Children and grandchildren had their own paths. Their parents couldn't possibly accompany them for a generation, and the elders would definitely not agree to drag them down with them. But this time, the future was unknown again. They could only wait until everyone had a firm foothold and reached a certain level of cultivation before they could bring their families up. But when would that be? A few years later? A few decades later? A few hundred years later? Chu Yang said, I think, since the matter of the extraterrestrial demons this time is controlled by the higher-ups, we will definitely have a certain amount of time to prepare. But this period of time won't be too long. Let's move quickly. Alright. The next morning, the Tribulation brothers swept out of the upper three heavens like whirlwinds. They went their separate ways, rushing toward their respective homes in the three heavens. Tan Ten also immediately led a group of experts from the Three Stars Divine Clan back to the northwest to settle all matters in the clan. Diwu Qingru, Fengyu, Han Xiaoran and the rest were even busier. They wished they could grow more heads and limbs. The entire continent had descended into chaos. How could it be easy to clean it up? Diwu Qingru actually had a few strands of white hair in just these 2 days. Wu Jueqing had nothing to worry about. He decided to stay at the place where the Dharma Supreme had died for a few more days. Even though they were once enemies, even though they were once like fire and water, Wu Jueqing still brought wine and paid his respects to this former tribulation from afar. This was a formidable person who had overturned the world and cleansed the entire continent. Chu Yang brought his son and sister and prepared to return to the Chu clan in the southeast. Everyone agreed that once they sensed that the world was about to shatter, they would immediately rush back to the law enforcement city to meet. Everyone would shatter the void together and step into the heavenly imperial court. Just as Chu Yang was about to leave, he received an unexpected surprise. Yi Shiyu was back. Yi Shiyu's return was of course no surprise. But the resurrection grass he brought back was the only good medicine to treat Yi Chuchen. When Yi Shiyu came back and learned that the Yi clan was gone, he fainted on the spot. After that, he cried bitterly. He entrusted the resurrection grass to Chu Yang to bring back, while Yi Shiyu himself stayed at the Yi clan residence to keep watch. Chu Yang couldn't bear to look at the endless desolation of guarding graves all over the place. After bidding farewell to Yi Shiyu, Fengyu and the rest, Chu Yang left a message. He told Ning Qinya to bring Tai Budian straight back to the southeast when he returned. Then, with Chu Lur in his arms, he traveled through the night to the southeast. Southeast, my home. I'm back. Never before. Chu Yang was so anxious to return home. Right after Chu Yang and the others left the Yi clan, late at night, somewhere in the ruins of the Yi clan, suddenly the earth shook. Slowly the ground rose. If an ordinary person were to see such a situation, they might be scared out of their wits. Puff! A light sound was heard. A human head popped out of the ground, covered in mud from head to toe. Looking around, she saw that the Yi clan was desolate and bleak. She couldn't help but choke with sobs. The mysterious man tried his best to control himself. Forcing himself not to make any noise, he stealthily pulled himself out of the ground and tidied up his face. The faint moonlight shone on his face, but his features were distinct. Yizue. It turned out to be the eldest young master of the Yi family. Other than Yi Shiyu, the Yi clan actually had other descendants left behind. After Yizue successfully broke free from the temptation of the extraterrestrial demon with his own willpower, Yi Chenshin knew that this great-great-grandson of his would definitely achieve great things in the future. He couldn't bear to see him die in vain during this extermination of the clan. They were buried together and executed the secret technique. With a single palm strike, he sealed all of his life force and buried him underground. Several days had already passed since the end of the battle. The power of the secret technique gradually dissipated and Yizue also slowly regained his consciousness. He broke out of the ground and saw the light of day again. At this moment, Yizue was wandering around the Yi clan courtyard like a ghost. Everywhere he passed, as far as his eyes could see, there was only desolation and desolation. There was no sign of life at all. His eyes grew dimmer and dimmer, finally returning to a dead silence. Finally, in the west, a faint light flickered. Yizue quietly went over. That was where Yizue's last hope lay. Under the night wind and the moonlight, a stretch of graves connected together. There were so many soul-summoning banners that it was as boundless as a white ocean. A lone light as small as a bean. A figure knelt under the light like a clay sculpture. Yi Shiyu. Yizue suddenly discovered that a member of the Yi clan was his own younger brother. The emotions that he had accumulated for a long time could no longer be suppressed. They suddenly erupted and he rushed out in a frenzy, grabbing Yi Shiyu by the collar. What's going on? What's going on? What exactly is going on? What happened? Why did the Yi clan become like this? Tell me quickly. Tell me. Yi Shiyu's body swayed in his hands as if he had lost all vitality. His face was ashen and his eyes were bleak and lifeless. After a long time, as if he finally recognized who Yizue was, he suddenly burst into tears. Big brother, we're finished. The Yi clan is finished. It's all over. What exactly is going on? Yizue gritted his teeth. Tell me quickly. After a long time, the two brothers sat across from each other. The dim light from the lantern illuminated their faces, flickering on and off. The two originally handsome faces were actually so ferocious and terrifying. Dharma Supreme. Extraterrestrial demon. Extraterrestrial demon. Yizue bit his lip hard. Streaks of red blood flowed down. He clenched his fists tightly and suddenly roared into the sky. In this lifetime, I swear that I will exterminate the extraterrestrial demon and take revenge for this blood feud. If I violate this oath, may the heavens punish me and I will be worse than a dog or a pig. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Then heavy rain poured down. Yizue fell to his knees with a thud, sobbing silently. His mouth was almost gnawing into the soil. His tears flowed silently along with his blood. The next morning, the Yi clan's mansion was suddenly empty. Not only Yizue, even Yi Shiyu was nowhere to be found. It was a complete desolation. Only incense and candles were placed neatly on the ground. Within a radius of several hundred miles, the smell of wine was everywhere. The morning breeze blew and the spirit-summoning banners rustled. It was such a huge graveyard. There was actually no one guarding the tomb. That endless desolation and devastation made the hearts of everyone who saw this scene feel heavy. From then on, no one saw Yizue in this heavenly continent anymore. No one saw Yi Shiyu again. The siblings Chu Yang and Chu Le were eager to return home. They ran at a speed that was almost beyond their limits. In a short time they had already stepped into the southeast border. This was the first time the eldest young master of the Chu clan, Tai Yang, had returned home. The commotion he caused was unprecedented in the Chu clan. Even when his father, Chu Yang, returned home previously, it wasn't as eye-catching as him. Chu Lue rushed into Flat Mountain Ridge, shouting and yelling. Before they reached home, Yang Rulin and Chu Failing had already jogged out to welcome them. They carried a certain baby from Chu Yang's neck and called him darling non-stop. Chu Xiongqing and Old Master Chu also came out trembling in bliss. Old Master Yang Bao and his wife also rushed out. They almost fought with Old Master Chu on the spot to see who could carry him longer. In the end, Old Mistress Yang won. Old Master Chu Xiongqing had no wife to support him, so he had no choice but to temporarily be at a disadvantage. He went up to tease his great-grandson but was pushed aside by Old Master Yang. "You old man, go to one side. You came so close. Are you trying to take advantage of my wife? Do you think you'll die of old age?" Old Master Chu was speechless. "With your wife's character, I don't even care if she comes to me. Am I going over because of your wife? I'm doing it for my great-grandson, okay? He's obviously my great-grandson, okay? He's a member of the Chu clan. You're holding my great-grandson hostage. Do you know how to be a guest? The two of you are obviously trying to steal the limelight from the host. What is this?" In the end, the commotion was really too big. Even Old Master Chu Xiaoxing floated out. When he saw Tai Yang, he couldn't help but exclaim. He took a few careful looks and nodded repeatedly. Chu Xiongqing said respectfully, "Elder Master, what do you think of this child's talent?" Chu Xiaoxing gave a rare warm smile and said, "Our Chu clan is really blessed. With these two fathers, our Chu clan will be able to do whatever we want and live as long as the heavens. I can finally rest assured." Aha! Laughing heartily, he actually floated in without even looking back. The little fellow was very eloquent and well-behaved. His little mouth was so sweet that it was as if it was smeared with honey. The group of people were all very happy. Naturally, they gave out a lot of gifts. For a moment, the Chu clan's courtyard was filled with cheers and laughter, as if it was the new year. When everyone entered the house, Chu Le leaned on her mother and refused to leave. Chu Yang went over to Meng Chaoran's side immediately. Meng Chaoran was standing at the door with his hands behind his back, as if he was specially waiting for Chu Yang. When he saw Chu Yang coming over, he smiled slightly and his expression was as calm as usual. Before Chu Yang spoke, Meng Chaoran had already asked, "Are you really leaving this time?" His expression was still as calm as ever. It was as if he didn't care if his disciple left. He didn't seem to be reluctant at all. However, Chu Yang clearly knew that his master's heart was definitely not as indifferent as it was now. "Yes." Chu Yang's throat was a little dry. He spat out this word with some difficulty. "Well, it's good that you're going up. The world up there is wider." Meng Chaoran encouraged, "That's where you brothers can really show your skills." After a pause he asked, "Where's Tan Tan? Where is he now? Why didn't he come with you?" Chu Yang said, "Tan Tan is now the head of a clan. He has no choice but to do things. This time the catastrophe is over and his ascension is imminent. He has to go back to the 3 Stars Divine clan to sort out the follow-up matters. He'll come here as soon as everything is settled and reunite with us. I estimate that it'll be in 2 or 3 days. Alright, he'll also bring his wife over for you to take a look. Meng Chaoran's calm expression froze at this point. You're saying that he'll bring his wife over for me to take a look? Is it that Monsieur? Meng Chaoran had always been indifferent in this world. Only 2 people could make him lose his self-control. One of them was his good disciple, Tan Tan. The other one wasn't his other disciple, King of Hell Chu. Instead it was a girl named Xia Danfeng. I'm extremely depressed. Another keyboard is broken. I went through a lot of trouble to buy a new one and replace it. Then, after buying the new keyboard, my wife asked the guy who gave me the keyboard if he wanted to recycle the old one. I have more than 10 at home. Then, after looking at those keyboards, that guy said something that almost made me faint. He said, "These keyboards can still be used. It's normal that some of the keyboards can't be used. It's just that you put things inside. For example, fruit juice, Red Bull coffee, etc. The simplest way is to put them under the sun. These keyboards have been there for a long time. They can be used now." Then I tried them one by one. They can still be used? My God. I suddenly have 13 keyboards. 13. Fuck. Chapter 1704. Chu Yang smiled and said, "It's that Monsieur Danfeng. The 2 of them are usually inseparable. They wouldn't have separated if it weren't for the extraterrestrial demon war. Well, she'll be able to serve and be filial to you in a few days." Meng Chaoran's mind was full of thoughts. He recalled the day when he, Tan Tan, and Monsieur Danfeng first met. He couldn't help but smile. Then he smiled faintly and said, "You 2 brothers have female confidants as your companions. You won't be lonely on the road ahead." Then he actually shuddered. The 2 people who gave him the most headaches had become husband and wife. Moreover, they had to serve and be filial to him. Just thinking about it made his hair stand on end. Meng Chaoran twirled his beard and thought, how many days can I be filial to them? Will they be filial to me? They can't kill me, but they can anger me to death. Chu Yang smiled apologetically and said, "Master, what are you talking about? How can you be old? Who dares to call you old? That person must be blind." Meng Chaoran maintained his faint smile and gently shook his head. He looked into the void with his hazy eyes. He was somewhat self-deprecating and somewhat proud. He said softly, "Back then, for 2 consecutive years I picked up a baby in the Snow-Wind Ancient Temple in the first year. In the second year I picked up another baby under the cliff. Now the 2 babies have grown up." Haha. Meng Chaoran's eyes were misty as he said, "Half of my life's efforts have been poured into these 2 babies. However, even if my head was chopped off, I would never have thought that these 2 babies I picked up, one of them has become the Calamity Sword Master whose name has shaken the world, and the other one has become the first Devil King of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The babies that others have cultivated are at most human supremes, but the babies that I have cultivated are sword devils. Sword King, Demon King." Meng Chaoran lowered his head and looked at Chu Yang. "Yang, do you know how proud I am in this generation? Who in this world is luckier than me? Who wouldn't be envious of me?" Chu Yang also smiled warmly and said, Yes. Even if others wanted such a disciple, they wouldn't be able to find one. Even if one were to break their heads, they still wouldn't be able to find one. However, Master casually picked one up. Picking one every year is a small matter. I reckon that you must have been lazy back then. Otherwise, I would have picked up dozens of legends, miracles and miracles over the years." Meng Chaoran laughed heartily. He was no longer indifferent. "With the 2 of you as my disciples, what more can I ask for in this life?" Meng Chaoran chuckled. "Tonight, I will definitely get drunk with Han Wu to celebrate this matter." Chu Yang's heart ached. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, "I'm here this time." He had another piece of good news to tell his master. "I've already obtained the resurrection grass that mistress needs." Meng Chaoran's eyes lit up. "Really?" A trace of redness suddenly appeared on his fair face. Chu Yang couldn't help but be stunned. This was the first time in so many years. This was the first time he had seen his master so excited. From this, it could be seen how important Yi Chuchen's position in Master's heart was. Speaking of which, this matter wasn't done by me. It was Mistress's nephew Yi Shiyu, who spent an entire year outside searching for this elixir. Could be said that he went through a lot of trouble. He finally found it. However, the Yi clan had undergone great changes during this catastrophe. Yi Shiyu stayed at home to guard the tomb and couldn't personally deliver it to Mistress. Thus he entrusted it to me. Of course, Chu Yang didn't know that when he said this, Yi Shiyu had already disappeared without a trace. I see. The heavens have blessed us. There was joy on Meng Qiaoran's face. Then he heaved a long sigh. If Chuchen can wake up and find out that the Yi clan no longer exists, and that Han Wu has already passed away, I really don't know how sad she will be, but if Mistress never wakes up, how sad will that be? Chu Yang said, especially now that we have the ability to wake her up but haven't done so. What will Mistress do then? Meng Qiaoran's expression was melancholic for a long time. He said, what you say makes sense. One should always look forward. Chu Yang and Meng Qiaoran walked into Meng Qiaoran's room in silence. In the room there was a quiet little table. 2 wine cups and a pot of good wine seemed to be quietly saying something. Chu Yang could only sigh deeply in his heart. What was a brother? Or maybe everyone had a different answer. But this was the case for Meng Qiaoran. Regardless of the 3 sentences of heaven and earth, regardless of life and death, a cup of wine. A cup of wine, whether in the mortal world or the netherworld, whether in the mortal world or separated by yin and yang. Brother, I'll drink with you. He would drink until he died. Then we'll meet in the netherworld and continue to drink. Whether in person or in soul, this love will never become a memory. Even if we leave the netherworld, we'll never forget it and it'll stay in our hearts forever. After a long time, Chu Yang walked out of Meng Qiaoran's small courtyard. He looked back and saw a lonely light. Someone was crying softly and someone was comforting him gently. They were Yi Chuchen and Meng Qiaoran. Those 2 had already formed a world of their own. Chu Yang sighed deeply. Where will I go? If I go, I'll settle down in the Chu clan in this life. This is my disciples' home and it's also my home. Occasionally, I might go out with Chuchen to look at the mountains and rivers and the scenery of the continent. Occasionally, I'll go to the capital or we'll go to the Ling clan. But sooner or later, I'll have to come back. This is my home, a home that I acknowledge. I won't go to the heavenly imperial court. In fact, I've never had such thoughts. I just want to spend the rest of my life peacefully with Chuchen. I don't want anything else. You and Tan Tan, go and explore your world with peace of mind. I only hope that the 2 of you can remember this detached attitude of yours. As my brother, it's enough. This was what Meng Qiaoran said when the master and disciple were talking just now. When Chu Yang took out the heavy pills and Shui Leihan's immortal wine to give to Meng Qiaoran rejected them. I'm not being pretentious and I'm not keeping anything for you. I really don't need it. I really don't need it. What's the use of increasing my cultivation now? I understand your intentions and I know that you're filial. So if I need it, I won't reject it. Because it's only right for you to be filial to me. But I really don't need it now. I just want to live the rest of my life peacefully. When it's time to live, I'll live happily and naturally. When it's time to die, I'll die. But I'm not willing to extend my lifespan through external means. Just let me and your master's wife live the rest of our lives peacefully and naturally. When I was alive, I didn't have a grand life. I only hope that when I die, I can also die quietly. A person's life is like the yellow of a tree. Even if it's the kind that doesn't fall in spring and autumn, it will also fall naturally at a certain time. I've always thought that it's a very beautiful realm. So don't ruin it for me. I want to drink with Han Wu at his wedding. If you have the heart, please instruct your family to prepare more good wine for me. That's enough. Even if I don't care about life and death, the pride in my heart is earth-shattering. Because I have 2 younger brothers like this. Every time Chu Yang thought about Meng Qiaoran's carefree and unrestrained manner, he felt that he was far inferior to him. His master was such a person. Once he made up his mind, he wouldn't change it no matter what. He wouldn't even hesitate a little. Not to mention others, even his closest disciple, Chu Yang, really couldn't do anything about his master's temper. Chu Yang could only wish his master well in the future. At night, little Tai Yang was already asleep. Even if he was a child prodigy, even if he was different from ordinary children, he still needed to sleep. In the study, Chu Yang sat opposite his parents. Unexpectedly, Yang Rulin and Chu Feiling's expressions were unusually calm. They even knew that Chu Yang was about to face the collapse of the sky and the shattering of the void, and that it was very likely that they wouldn't see each other again in the future, but they were still so calm. Regarding this, Chu Yang was very surprised. This didn't seem to make sense. It also didn't match the personalities of this old couple, did it? When a baby eagle grows up, it has to leave the nest. Yang Rulin smiled gently. Her eyes were like water as she looked at her son. The most regretful thing in my life is that I didn't get to see you grow up from a baby crying piteously to an adult, and become the man you are today. Although it's due to various reasons, it's still a dereliction of duty as a parent. Chu Feiling sighed and tried to ease the topic. Since ancient times, loving mothers tend to spoil their children. If Yang had grown up under our care, she wouldn't have experienced so many things. But she might not have become the Calamity Sword Master now. This sentence was indeed reasonable, but for Yang Ruolin, it was unforgivable. She glared at him and said, "Well said, too well said. Because of this you'll also lose a brother who's in love with you. Is this what you mean?" Chu Feiling's face instantly turned red. He stared at his wife with grief and indignation, saying, You clearly promised not to mention this matter again. Yang Ruolin squinted and said, "I did promise, I admit. But now I'm not keeping my promise. What can you do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?" Chu Feiling was completely stunned. To reason with a woman, especially when this woman was his wife. What kind of brainless man would do such a thing? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud. The atmosphere in the room immediately relaxed. "Little one, don't worry and do your own things. Go on your own path." Chu Feiling coughed. "As for us, you don't have to worry. In today's heavenly layer, your father and mother can be regarded as first-class experts. There's not much room for improvement in the future, but we won't be bullied by others. Living a peaceful life is also a kind of happiness." Chapter 1705. Chu Yang nodded and admitted that what he said made sense. "What do you mean by living a peaceful life?" "I'm waiting for the day when you show off your might in the heavenly imperial court and bring your parents up there to enjoy life." Yang Ruolan looked at her son gently and said, "But for now your father and I won't follow you up there. Firstly, we're not strong enough. Secondly, we're old now and don't have so much energy. It's good to live a peaceful life." Chu Yang sighed. "Also, this little guy can't follow you up there. I want to watch him grow up. To make up for my regret of not being able to watch his father grow up." Yang Ruolan looked at her grandson tenderly. Chu Yang was speechless. "Besides, it's useless for you to stay by my side if you don't go up there now. You're far inferior to my son Cutie. I think even you back then were not as good as my son Cutie." Yang Ruolan's words hit Chu Yang so hard that he rolled his eyes. She forgot about her son when she had a grandson? "Oh yes, leave me more of your life-prolonging things. If I don't go up there, I won't be able to go up there. But it's good to live a few hundred more years. Maybe I can wait until you show off your might and return to the heavenly imperial court. How can my son be ordinary?" Chu Yang smiled mischievously and said, "There's no need to doubt this point. As long as my strength reaches a certain level, I can sneak down and stay for a few days. After I establish my kingdom, I'll bring my parents up there to play. If I feel that it's good up there, I'll stay there. If I miss home, I'll come home. That day won't be too far away." Yang Ruolan's eyes lit up and said, "Then you have to work hard. I'm counting on you. Your father and I just have to live carefully. My son is so promising. It's meaningless for us to wander in the martial world. We can only work hard to avoid any risks and try to live as long as possible. I want to see your glory one after another." Chu Yang nodded solemnly. Yang Ruolan's words expressed the thoughts of all parents in the world. When they were young, they had to fight and fight. It was just for the glory and splendor of their lives and to leave something for their grandchildren. But when they were old and their children and grandchildren were very capable, they had to suppress their ambitions. It was just to let their children wander outside, feel at ease. They could achieve great things with peace of mind. This was the greatest and best support for their children. Night fell. Chu Yang had already returned to his room to sleep. Yang Ruolan was hugging her grandson. She looked at the little fellow's pink face as he slept soundly. Tonight, she was destined to have a sleepless night. The lights were already out. Throughout the night, she could only hear Chu Feiling tossing and turning restlessly beside her, while Yang Ruolin forcefully suppressed a long sigh. "I am about to go on a long journey. This journey was fraught with thorns at every step. As parents, how could they be so safe and unconcerned? When a son travels thousands of miles, his mother worries for him. But one day Chu Yang left. However, it wasn't just 1,000 li, 10,000 li was the barrier between two different worlds. After parting this time, he might not be able to see Jianghu again. However, the shattering of the void this time was something that could not be reversed at all, even if Chu Yang changed his mind and gave up on ascending. It was absolutely impossible for him to stay. Since things were already destined to be irreversible, the only thing the parents could do was to let their son leave in peace. "Don't worry. Don't have any worries. The road ahead is boundless and any worries can make you confused. I only hope that my child will be safe and sound." Chulu's small courtyard was filled with the same atmosphere. Chulu was just like how she usually was at home. She snuggled up to her mother like a kitten, breathing in her mother's scent. She quietly spent this last period of time. The next morning, the Chu clan was already bustling with noise and excitement. Chu Yang and the sword spirit also didn't sleep that night. They were preparing to leave the heavy pills and many other treasures for their family. When they opened the door, they were full of smiles as they joined in the laughter. When reuniting, cherish it. When parting, don't be sad. Above the heavenly imperial court. Reception palace. Although it was called the reception palace, it was actually just a reception area. The rooms were just slightly more luxurious. Strange. It's too strange. Why are there so many? 3 to 5 golden-robed men carefully felt the fluctuations of heaven and earth. Their faces were full of shock. Looking at the several light spots that appeared on the transparent purple crystal mirror in front of them, they couldn't help but scratch their heads in puzzlement. This was too abnormal. In the past, there would be at most 1 or 2 people breaking through the void and coming up here. But, this time, why are there so many of them this time? That's right, the number of people isn't the most strange thing. What's really strange is the cultivation of these people. They're definitely much stronger than before. I'm afraid they're already close to Earth level. What's going on? Yes, Earth level isn't that weak, but they're definitely at the human level. I've never encountered such a situation before. Look at the appearance of this continent. It's very similar to the one that third brother is in charge of. Is that so? Let me see. Yes, it's indeed here. I heard that third brother went down to maintain order in the realm last time and caught people who exceeded their realm and affected the balance. Even the purple cloud ribbon robe had one of his hands chopped off. I wonder if it's true? The person who spoke was obviously gloating. How could it be false? Haha, I heard that when third brother came back and reported this matter, he was scolded by Steward Liang. Then Steward Liang was beaten up by General Wu. I heard that he was bedridden for half a year. But the most unlucky one is still General Wu. When General Wu wanted to go down and find a chance to restore the purple cloud ribbon robe, he was directly grounded by General Liu. I heard that the crime was actually kicking his own dog. This is really strange. That's right, General Wu hasn't been released yet. And the matter of the purple cloud ribbon robe being damaged was left unsettled. In the end, the one who suffered the least loss was third brother. But after hearing about this, third brother didn't even dare to fart. He was so scared that his face turned green. But there must be something fishy about this. Otherwise, so many people wouldn't be so unlucky because of what happened back then. Nonsense. If there's nothing fishy, I'm your son. Didn't you see that after that incident we've been idle all this time? We don't even need to restore the balance in the lower realm. But this time the task of breaking through the void. What should we do? What else can we do? There's no order from above for us to take action. Do you dare to take action? Go. It's son who dares to take action. Of course we can't take action without permission. Let's report it and let the superiors deal with it. Are you stupid? Even if you want to die, don't drag us down with you. It's our responsibility to report it. If you ask me, who should be responsible for it? Since third brother is in charge of that area, it's naturally better for him to report it himself. We don't want to get into trouble and come back. General Wu kicked his own dog and was grounded for several months. If we little people let out a fart at such a critical moment, won't our entire family be executed? It must have something to do with the guy who broke through the void this time. There's no doubt about that. Damn it, when those guys come up, I'd like to see what kind of outstanding people they are. They're torturing us. Right, where's third brother? Damn it, tell him to report it. After third brother heard about this, he was so scared that he went to the toilet. He hasn't come out yet. He likes to go to the toilet when he's nervous. He even fell sick. After a long time, a voice suddenly rang out. Envoy received the decree. Suddenly, the few people in the room were dumbfounded. They were so shocked that they almost fainted. All of them stared at each other, unable to believe their ears. Receive the decree. What decree? Nonsense, this was the Eastern Royal Heaven. Other than the Eastern Royal Token, what else could be called a decree? But the problem was that the few of them seemed to be just insignificant guides. Many years before this, not to mention personally receiving the Eastern Emperor's decree, they had not even seen half a person who was qualified to receive the decree. And now they were actually receiving the decree directly? Wasn't this really going to scare them to the point of pissing their pants? Earlier, why didn't they accompany third brother to the toilet? Now they wouldn't. At the next moment, the few of them rushed out and knelt on the ground while trembling. The ranks of these brothers were really too low. It seemed that they didn't even know the basic etiquette of receiving a decree. They only knew how to kowtow. Little officials receive the decree, ttt. Don't misunderstand, they weren't being arrogant. Instead, they were so scared that their teeth were chattering. The messenger snorted but didn't blame him. He simply unfolded the Donghuang order and said loudly, His Majesty the Donghuang order. 3 months later, go to the Chongtian continent to bring the broken ones to Heaven Imperial Court. Based on the number of people, each envoy can only bring one person. All the broken ones will be separated and scattered to the various realms of the Heaven Imperial Court. They can't communicate with each other and can't go against each other. This Donghuang token seemed to be extremely strange. The Great Eastern Royal Emperor was actually concerned about people who had just ascended. He even specially made detailed plans and arrangements. Was this old man so free? After the envoy finished his announcement, he left the Eastern Royal token behind and left as if his butt was on fire. Even after the envoy left for a long time, the envoys still hadn't recovered from their shock. What the heck? Did I hear wrongly just now? Me too. How could? The envoys gathered in front of the Eastern Royal token and read it word by word. After reading it, they were even more confused. What the hell was going on? What was going on? His Majesty definitely wouldn't be so free. The only explanation is, these people are very important. The leader of the envoys looked solemn, and there was even fear in his eyes. Brothers, I'm afraid we've taken on a big job this time. Today is the birthday of the two leaders. Satan Yao and White Tiger God of War, birthdays. Chapter 1706. The few envoys looked at each other, and they were so scared that they couldn't move. Moreover, we have never eaten pork or seen a pig run before, but we have heard of pigs. Usually the officials who pass on the edict are very arrogant. How can they be so swift? Before the edict is passed on, they put up a fight, and after the edict is passed on, they are even more arrogant. This time, this person actually left so quickly. It's as if there's a tiger behind him. No matter how strong we are, it's impossible for him to be so fearful, right? That means, His Majesty is waiting for his reply? That's why he left in such a hurry? The moment they thought of this, their faces turned even paler. One of them stammered, Boss, you're right. I'm afraid we've taken on a big job this time. That's right. These people are clearly broken now, but we're only going to pick them up after 3 months? This is obviously to give them time to say goodbye to their loved ones. When has he ever been so considerate? That's right. In the past, no matter how many people are broken, only one envoy is needed. But this time, so many envoys are needed? Isn't this a bit too much of a waste of resources? Also, why don't we leave all the ascended experts in the Eastern Royal Heaven in our Eastern Royal Heaven? Why do we have to spread them all over the world? This isn't something easy to deal with. If they don't want us to leave them, where will we leave them? Are we going to smuggle them over? Or are we going to be killed as soon as we leave? Such a strange thing, I've never heard of it before. The more they speculated, the more they felt that it didn't make sense. Just as they were discussing, the Eastern Royal token suddenly emitted a bright yellow light. It slowly shrank in the air and finally turned into a small token, flashing fiercely in the air. A huge token word flashed and shot out a brilliant golden light. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared. Supreme Eastern Royal Token. The few of them were sweating profusely, and they almost fainted. Oh my God! This was actually the legendary Supreme Eastern Royal Token, the supreme decree of the Eastern Royal Heaven. This kind of decree represented the supreme authority. Every order must be strictly enforced. Secrets must not be leaked. If there is a leak, the entire clan will be executed. Everyone rest well and prepare to pick up those uncles in 3 months. The golden-robed man, who was obviously the leader, said solemnly, "Don't leak the secret." I wasn't joking just now. The people who came up this time are absolutely. Every single one of them is a master, a living ancestor. Brothers, we must not offend them. You can die if you're not careful. You can lose your life if you're not careful. You must be very careful. It's not easy for us brothers to live this long, is it? Everyone shuddered at the same time. What boss said made a lot of sense. No matter where these people came from, it was absolutely right to serve them well. Once they respectfully welcomed them and sent them off as if they were serving their masters, there would be nothing left for them to do. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. Before everyone could regain their senses, they saw a man in green robes coming from afar. With a schwa sound, he arrived in front of them. I am the Prime Minister's Residence's Divine Sword Consul. The Prime Minister wants me to ask if someone in the heaven has broken through? Prime Minister. The few envoys almost fainted. Not only the monarch, even the Prime Minister sent someone over? The Prime Minister was the most powerful person in the entire Eastern Royal Heavens after the monarch. The monarch usually didn't care about worldly affairs, but the Prime Minister was the #1 person in charge of the entire situation. Over the years, millions of people had been killed in the Eastern Royal Heavens. Which one of them wasn't under the orders of the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister wouldn't even bat an eyelid if the few of them were killed. But he actually personally sent someone to ask? And the person he sent was actually one of the legendary 8 consul generals, the Divine Sword Consul? Oh my god. The Prime Minister has ordered that if any one of you leaks this out, you guys will be blessed. If something goes wrong, your ancestors will be blessed. The green-clothed man said a few words in a cold voice and then floated away. A few of the emissaries almost burst into tears. Blessed if it's leaked out? What blessed? This sentence was definitely sarcastic. It could really scare them away. Who can tell us, who are these people who have broken through the void? Are they the monarch's illegitimate children? Or are they the Prime Minister's pearls in the sea? This battle formation was simply too frightening. Chu Yang and the others stayed in the heaven continent peacefully, enjoying the rarest and most peaceful time of their lives. On the 3rd day, Ning Qinya finally appeared in the southeast flat mountain ridge with Tai Budian, who was travel-worn. Of course, the Minister of Internal Affairs, Feng Qiuyang, accompanied them along the way. Minister Feng's future was in Chu Yang's hands. It could be said that his lifetime of happiness and sexual bliss were all in Minister Chu's hands. Now that Chu Yang was about to break through, Tai Budian also intended to take this opportunity. He wanted Chu Yang to help him. After all, such a top expert couldn't always be a eunuch, right? The moment he saw the gate of the Chu clan, Tai Budian thought about how he was about to meet Chu Yang and his family. He couldn't help but blush. He was so embarrassed that it was hard to describe. Chu Yang's other family members were fine. But Chu Yang's mother, the only Chu clan member he was familiar with, was his senior sister. How was he going to face this? Originally, he was in the lower 3 heavens. Firstly, it was a long journey. Secondly, he was busy with state affairs. These 2 reasons were enough to delay the date of meeting indefinitely. It seemed that his former senior sister, now his mother-in-law, might not be very willing to meet him. Was the 2 of them playing an awkward game? But Tai Yang, that little bastard, had actually snuck in here without anyone noticing. This unexpected turn of events made Tai Butian's teeth itch. This little bastard. Isn't he pushing his mother into the most embarrassing situation? Wouldn't it be embarrassing to death? And Chu Yang, that bastard. If it wasn't for him adding fuel to the fire and giving advice, how would today's events have happened? Tai Butian's face was flushed red. He was conflicted. He was already in front of the gate, but he was so timid that he didn't dare to take a step forward. This matter is definitely that damn Chu Yang's idea. He knows that if he were to go down to the lower 3 heavens, I would have countless reasons. But it's very likely that I wouldn't come up here. Therefore he simply brought my son here, leaving me no choice. If the little bastard stayed in the Chu clan, he would have to come. If he didn't come, then it would be him who stayed here for a year or 2 years or even forever. Tai Budian believed that Chu Yang, this bastard of a father, would definitely do it. To Tai Budian, this move of taking drastic measures was extremely vicious and ruthless. It was really the most effective method. It was a sure kill, a sure kill. Of course, Tai Budian wouldn't know that the matter this time was basically her own son walking right into the trap and setting up a big trap for her mother to fall into. It really didn't have much to do with Chu Yang. At best, Minister Chu was just pushing the boat along with the current. Yes, actually, it really didn't have much to do with him. With a monstrous son and a heaven-defying husband, even the human emperor of the lower 3 heavens wouldn't be able to handle it. At this moment, Tai Budian wasn't dressed as a member of the royal family, nor was she dressed as a man. She was dressed in a light yellow dress, fully dressed as a woman. The peerless beauty that she used to hide behind treasures were fully revealed in front of everyone. Especially that awe-inspiring bearing that had been cultivated from being in a high position for a long time. Her every move unconsciously brought out endless grace and grandeur, the aura of a sovereign descending upon the world. It made people feel even more afraid to look at her directly. It was just that now, she was like a little wife who had done something wrong. She was in a dilemma, making people feel a little apprehensive. Ning Qinya stood beside Tai Budian with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky. Actually, this old man's heart was more or less amusing. This matter, yes, seemed to be getting more and more interesting. But Chu Yang, this fellow, was really blessed with love? He coughed and said, Your Majesty, let's not hesitate anymore. Actually, this is how the world works. Even an ugly daughter-in-law will inevitably meet her in-laws. Tai Budian rolled her eyes at him. What do you mean by even an ugly daughter-in-law will inevitably meet her in-laws? Am I an ugly daughter-in-law? If I'm an ugly daughter-in-law, you should find me a pretty one. This old man only knew how to make plans for his precious disciple. Feng Qiuyang stood behind Tai Budian, standing with his hands solemnly. Go forward and report. Tai Buqian's face was as red as a burning cloud. Report? Feng Qiuyang scratched his head full of questions. Your Majesty, how should I report? With this question, Tai Budian was also stunned. Yes, how should she report? In what capacity should she report? Could she say that the woman raised by the Chu clan's Grand Duke had returned? How should she say that? If she really said that, would Tai Budian still have any dignity left? But if she said that the Emperor of the lower three heavens had arrived? That obviously wouldn't do. What? You still came to the Chu clan to flaunt your prowess? Say that you're the Grand Duke's mother? But that Grand Duke seemed to still be surnamed Tai. Tai Budian thought about it several times but couldn't get the gist of it. For a moment she was also somewhat at a loss. Her wisdom of the past was naturally gone, and she was at a loss for what to do. Even her identity was a problem now. Of course she could still have an identity. For example, Ning Tianya. As long as she said that Ning Tianya, Supreme Ning, had personally come to the Chu clan would definitely welcome him. But in that case, what would she be? A lackey who relied on others' might to intimidate others? That wasn't right. For a moment the three of them actually froze. It was the Chu clan's gatekeeper who saw the three of them come together very quickly. Then, he stood not far from the door with a complicated expression. Also, it seemed that this woman was simply unbelievably beautiful. She didn't even look like a human. She was a fairy. Chapter 1707. Ning Qianya and Feng Qiuyang looked at Tai Budian together, obviously letting her make the decision. Tai Buqian's pretty face instantly turned as red as a persimmon in late autumn, as red as it could get. If that's the case, I'll have to trouble the three of you to inform. Tai Buqian's face was red as she almost stammered. Tai Budian of the lower three heavens. This, requests an audience. After stammering for a long time, she still couldn't say who she was requesting an audience with. She was already so embarrassed that she couldn't show her face. The three guards looked at each other. How could anyone who could guard the door be a fool? They thought to themselves, which master's romantic debt has come knocking on our door? He's really lucky with women. Since the other party had already introduced herself, they nodded and said, if that's the case, please wait a moment. Immediately, a person went in to report. Of course, they didn't know who exactly this Tai Budian was. They also didn't know what the three words Tai Budian meant in the lower three heavens and here, but the next moment they knew. They knew completely. The Chu clan's mansion suddenly erupted. Then Chu Failing, first Madame Yang Rulan, and first young Master Chu Yang almost ran out. Then they saw first young Master Chu Yang dashing out like a flash of light. The next moment, he held this indescribably beautiful woman in his arms. You're here, you're finally here. Chu Yang hugged the beauty tightly. Let go of me. What have I become? Tai Budian was embarrassed and anxious as she struggled with all her might. That original graceful bearing of a sovereign had long flown to God knows where. It was unknown whether it was beyond the clouds or somewhere else. Anyway, it was definitely very far away. Chu Yang laughed and let go of the beauty. Facing Chu Failing and Yang Rulan, these two people whom she was destined to meet but was most afraid of meeting, Tai Budian was even more embarrassed. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. How should I address them? This matter was truly too difficult to handle. Chu Failing and Yang Rulan were already prepared. Seeing Tai Buqian's embarrassed look, the two of them also felt a little strange and expectant as they looked at her with an amused expression. Chu Yang rubbed his nose and laughed. Then he feigned ignorance and said, Father, Mother, let me introduce you. You definitely haven't met her before. This is Tai Yang's mother. Cough cough. She is the Emperor of the Ironcloud Empire of the lower three heavens, cough cough, and also your daughter-in-law. She secretly added another word. One of them. Tai Buqian's pretty face turned even redder. Seeing that there was no way she could avoid this, she could only grit her teeth and take 3 steps forward. Then, she knelt down gracefully and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, "Daughter-in-law Button, greets father-in-law and mother-in-law." As he spoke he kowtowed. This bow was necessary no matter how familiar they were in the past. However, it involved the important matter of recognizing one's ancestors. That was something that could not be done carelessly. No matter how many misgivings Tai Budian had in her heart, she had already arrived at the Chu clan. But it was no longer up to her. Other than father-in-law and mother-in-law, there was no other way to address them. If he still called her senior sister, then the entire Chu clan would become the biggest joke in the heavenly layer. Therefore this meeting had really forced Tai Budian into a corner. With Dan Air here, Tai Budian had no choice but to come and give in. "Oh my, get up, get up," Chu Failing said hurriedly. Yang Rulin stepped forward and helped Tai Budian up. She pulled her into her arms and couldn't stop grinning. She whispered into Tai Buqian's ear, "Little girl, you were so stubborn back then." Humph humph. Tai Buqian's face turned even redder. They were originally senior and junior sisters, so they were naturally very familiar with each other. However, this was the first time they met openly after changing identities. She recalled how she had been stubborn back then and said that she wouldn't acknowledge Chu Yang. And the audience at that time was her senior sister, mother-in-law in front of her now. Yang Rulin smiled warmly and hugged Tai Budian as they walked into the house. Since she was her junior and now her daughter-in-law, how could Yang Rulin bear to let Tai Budian continue to be embarrassed? A red carpet was laid out in front of the main entrance of the house. On the red carpet, there was a large fire basin with flames burning fiercely. Chu Yang came up and whispered to Tai Budian, "Jump over?" Tai Budian was stunned. Seeing that everyone was smiling and looking at her, she had no choice but to jump over. Instantly there was applause all around. She saw that Chu Yang had also jumped over with her. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Was this worthy of applause? It was just a small fire basin. Besides, even if it was a peerless lightness technique, what was there to praise in a martial arts clan like the Chu clan? This is called jumping over a fire pit. Chu Yang whispered into her ear, "It's a custom here. It means that coming to my house is equivalent to jumping out of a fire pit. From now on, everything will be smooth sailing. Of course, it also means that you're a member of my family." Realization dawned on Tai Budian. She thought to herself, so being the emperor of the lower three heavens is a fire pit. Being the emperor is jumping into a fire pit. This is really strange. Could it be that living in the world, hundreds of millions of people are looking forward to jumping into the fire pit every moment? Forget it, seeing that you're treating me as a member of your family, I won't be calculative. Then another maid came over and presented a red robe. As bright as a flower. Yang Rulin whispered into Tai Buqian's ear. Tai Buqian's face became redder and redder. Finally she nodded shyly. Normally, a new daughter-in-law would have to wear a wedding dress when she first entered the family. Even if it was a woman outside, as long as the family acknowledged her, she would have to go through the wedding ceremony again. This was a custom of the southeast. However, Tai Budian and Chu Yang were doing everything in secret. Even their children were already so old. Obviously, it was somewhat inappropriate to go through the wedding ceremony again. No matter what, it felt a little weird. Yang Rulin had a rough discussion with her family members and could only come up with a compromise. They would just walk through the hall of the Chu clan in a wedding dress and kowtow to the ancestors. This would avoid awkwardness and save a lot of trouble. Then they would walk around the Chu clan compound. As the saying went, those who enter the hall, those who enter the kitchen. In this way they would officially enter the Chu clan and become a member of the Chu clan. As for the wedding ceremony, it could only wait until Chu Yang's wedding in the future. Everyone would go through the wedding ceremony together to make up for the ceremony that couldn't be made up now. Anyway, Chu Yang had more than one confidant and they would all be broken together with him. Looking at the graceful and beautiful Tai Budian wearing a bright wedding dress, Chu Yang stroked his chin and smiled. "Little girl. Let's see how you can run this time. Do you think that I can't do anything to you just because you're the emperor? Now that you're in the Chu clan, what you do and what you don't do, isn't it still up to me?" When a new daughter-in-law meets her parents-in-law for the first time, she has to listen to whatever they say. How can you resist? From now on you're a proper member of the Chu clan. More importantly, you're my wife. One of my wives. Run. Wishful thinking. This was naturally the method that Chu Yang and Yang Rulin's mother came up with. It was meant to be used against Tai Budian. How would Tai Budian know that there were so many twists and turns in this? In addition, it was her first time here. She was in a daze and extremely shy. Everything was manipulated. Until the end, she didn't even realize what was going on. The only thing she felt was embarrassment. At the side, Chu Yang was already thinking of naughty ideas in his heart. His face was full of lust. Yes, if you want to run in the future, I'll strip you naked and keep your clothes. Let's see how you can run then. Wow, my mommy is so beautiful. A young and tender voice was heard cheering. Little Tai Yang was carried out from Chu Luer's arms. The little guy could walk on his own, but as long as someone was willing to carry him, especially a beautiful woman, he would never take this step on his own. The moment Tai Budian saw this little guy, she immediately liked him and was happy. But she was also a little angry and even a little sad. During the few days when this little guy went missing, Tai Budian almost broke down. Such a small little guy ran away from home without a word. What would happen when he grew up? Tai Budian took Tai Yang and slapped him on the buttocks with tears in her eyes. Little rascal. Why did you run? After 2 consecutive slaps, Yang Rulin was unhappy. She snatched the child back. All right. You've already hit and scolded him. Don't scare him. He's still young and can't be scared. As she spoke, she hurriedly rubbed his buttocks. Good boy, does it hurt? Let me blow on it. Sigh, your mother is so cruel. Even his buttocks are red. She almost burst into tears. Chu Yang and Tai Budian were speechless. Tai Budian didn't use any strength at all. How did it turn red? Besides, this little buttocks. Even if she burned it, it might not turn red, right? It was just a light red color to begin with. Can't be scared? What's there to be scared of? He turned a blind eye to a battlefield where millions of people died. He even blackmailed all the Tribulation brothers and everyone present. Besides, this little rascal really deserved a good beating. Why did his mother let him go with just 2 light slaps? That night, the Chu clan held a big banquet. Ning Qinya naturally sat at the main seat. Everyone drank until they were drunk. Late at night, Tai Budian stayed in a room arranged by the Chu clan. She couldn't fall asleep. The child wasn't by her side. Yang Rulin had already taken him away. You can't be at ease if you hit the child when he's by your side. It was a very high-sounding reason. But Tai Budian was rather helpless. How can I really bear to hit him? Do I look like a mother abusing her child? For a moment she only felt confused. After a long time she started to look around the room. The more she looked, the more she felt that something was wrong. Well, this is obviously a man's room. What's going on? There seemed to be men's clothes on the clothes rack and men's shoes in the shoe cabinet. How can it be? Did they put me in Chu Yang's room? The more Tai Budian thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She was about to go out and leave this troublesome place when she heard the door creak open. A person walked in, his breath reeking of alcohol. Chapter 1708. Why did you come in? Get out. Tai Budian blushed. The person who came in was Chu Yang. Chu Yang's eyes widened, but he was just pretending to be confused. He said in surprise, "This is my house, why can't I come in?" Tai Budian blushed and said, "Your house? Then I'll go look for my mother to change houses. Who wants to stay with you?" Chu Yang laughed and said, "Change houses. Novel chapters are updated the fastest. Where do you want to change houses in the middle of the night? Pretty girl, did you forget what you did today? You've already worn the wedding dress, jumped into the fire pit and acknowledged your ancestors. From now on you're my rightful woman. Where do you think you're going to run away to? Change houses? That's hilarious." Tai Butian's eyes widened. What the fuck? She seemed to have fallen into a trap? She announced to the world that she acknowledged her ancestors in broad daylight and became someone's woman from now on? Seeing Chu Yang's handsome face getting closer and closer, Tai Budian panicked and retreated step by step, her face getting redder and redder. When she finally retreated to the back, there seemed to be something obstructing her. She sat down on the bed in a moment of carelessness. Chu Yang pounced over like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, holding Tai Butian's delicate body tightly in his arms. Tai Budian was about to struggle when she heard Chu Yang say in her ear, "His Majesty has asked me to serve him to bed. For His Majesty to sleep comfortably at night, I'll do my best to serve him. I'll use all kinds of methods and postures to make him happy. Even if I have to do my best, I'll let him enjoy the wonderful feeling of being an immortal. Does Your Majesty look forward to it?" Tai Butian's face turned red and she said angrily, "Rogue! You pervert, let go of me, let go of me." Urun screamed in a low voice. Chu Yang's hand slipped into her lapel. Sticking close to her tender skin, he pushed his hand deeper into her body. Then he teased softly, "Rogue? Pervert? I'm His Majesty." He likes it the most when I play rogue with him. If I don't, what will His Majesty do? So I've decided. How hooligan could he be today? You have to be as perverted as possible to His Majesty. You have to be as perverted as possible until you have no place to be perverted. Tai Budian still wanted to resist and struggle, but Chu Yang's hand covered her plump breasts and gently kneaded them. She only felt that her entire body was going soft. With great effort she said, "You?" Chu Yang's other hand reached out. He reached into the hem of her skirt and reached out to cover her white and tender buttocks. He gently kneaded and said, "It's late at night. This humble subject has helped Your Majesty take off your clothes. I've been wearing these cumbersome clothes for the entire day. How can this be? Hurry up and get rid of it." In Chu Yang's voice, there was a burning passion that was about to explode. It seemed as if some kind of emotion was about to erupt. With a groan, Tai Buqian's entire body fell limply to the ground. She could clearly feel the nimble movements of Chu Yang's fingers. She felt a chill run down her spine, and her clothes were falling off her body piece by piece. Tai Budian closed her eyes tightly. Her face was as red as the morning sun. His entire body stiffened. Then it stopped for a moment. After a series of rustling sounds, a warm and strong body that she hadn't felt in a long time covered her body gently, as if afraid of pressuring her. Chu Yang's dreamy voice said, "Your Majesty, I'm here. I'll do my best to serve Your Majesty." Tai Budian was extremely embarrassed. She pinched him hard. Despite the pain, Chu Yang continued to tease her. "So Your Majesty can't wait any longer. I'll come right away." Tai Budian pouted. The candlelight was extinguished. It was spring in the room. More than 3 million words have been omitted here. The next few days passed peacefully, and happily. The world-destroying demonic tribulation caused by the extraterrestrial demons had been eliminated. If one were to say that peace and peacefulness were to be expected, the unusual calmness was something that Chu Yang found hard to believe. It had been more than half a month since the day of the breakthrough. How could the aura of the heavenly palace still appear? Chu Yang was also very confused now. Could it be that he had made a mistake? That Zheng and the others hadn't reached the stage where they could break through the void yet? Otherwise, how could it be so peaceful? But that shouldn't be the case. Although Zheng and his brothers weren't as strong as the Dharma Supreme, they were definitely above Ning Tianya. There was also the Sword Spirit. The Sword Spirit was very sensitive to the level of one's cultivation. His judgment had never been wrong before. Zheng and his brothers were definitely at the level of breaking through the void. In fact, they might have even surpassed it by a lot. But why did they have the aura of the heavenly palace? It was hard to understand. But while it was hard to understand, the aura of the heavenly palace was a good thing for now. Chu Yang and the others had been through many trials and breakthroughs. They had been on the brink of death many times. It was also a good thing that they had the chance to relax now. They could adjust their bodies and emotions. Only then could they be in the best condition to welcome the new era and explore the unknown future. The entire continent was still in a state of chaos, and this chaos would last for a long time. However, due to the fact that the entire double heaven was in a state of chaos, the entire continent was in a state of chaos. However, in the heavenly realm, almost all of the high-level martial artists had been wiped out in one fell swoop. Even if they were allowed to create chaos in the martial world now, it wouldn't be too chaotic. With the Moon Breeze duo leading the law enforcers, they could definitely handle everything calmly. There wouldn't be any exceptions or what-ifs. Diwu Qingru was still the same. All of his plans came from him. Although he was very tired every day, so tired that it was indescribable, and even with his cultivation he was so busy that he had difficulty sleeping every night. However, Diwu Qingru was very happy. He had finally found the most suitable position for him. He had also finally realized that Zheng and Chu Yang were really different. Chu Yang could wield his sword and rule the world. If he was given a throne, he could be the emperor and even do his duty well. If he was given a sword, he could also slaughter the world. But Diwu Qingru couldn't. Zheng could also laugh proudly in the martial world and rule the world. He could also be the emperor and even kill people with his sword. However, it depended on Diwu Qingru's personality. He was ultimately not the kind of person who stood at the peak. The most suitable position for Zheng was actually only below one person and above everyone else. Especially now, he was the second most powerful person in the entire heavenly realm. All of Diwu Qingru's ambitions, all of his wisdom and all of his wisdom could be unleashed without any restrictions. Moreover, he was even given a good assistant, Ling Hanxue. Therefore, Diwu Qingru felt that Zheng's generation would basically have no more desires in the future. When a person had more desires, his future would be very optimistic. Only those who were content with what they had would be able to live a happy life. From ancient times till now, and even in the future, this logic was true. Chu Yang was now in a tug-of-war with Tai Budian every day. Ever since that night, Tai Budian threw a huge tantrum. The first time he went to stay at his in-laws' house, he didn't sleep the whole night and was tormented the whole night. Well, it seemed that a certain king of hell hadn't done it for a long time. Now that he finally had the chance, how could he not go all out? Tell me, how am I going to face people in the future? Tell me. Tai Budian was unable to restrain her anger. The domineering aura of an emperor was fully displayed. Chu Yang smiled cheekily. Your Majesty, please allow me to report. Actually, there's nothing to do with it. It's just human desires. Your Majesty is not a human and I am not a human. Since we are humans, how can we not have any desires? Reuniting after such a long time, it's only right to indulge in a night of pleasure. Nonsense. Nonsense. Tai Budian was embarrassed and anxious. She was too ashamed to show her face. Tai Budian reprimanded him verbally, but in her heart, intentionally or unintentionally, she recalled last night's indulgence in a night of pleasure. A certain fellow went crazy like a wild beast. Under the heat of passion, he seemed to have made quite a big commotion. Even did it. This really made her feel a little ashamed. Seeing that Tai Budian was really anxious, Chu Yang was someone who did it and naturally had his own means. He pretended to be mysterious and said, "Yes, I forgot to report to your Majesty. It seems that I have already used my divine senses to completely block off this room last night. So, your Majesty can rest assured that no one else will be able to hear you." Tai Budian was finally relieved when she heard this. Then she flew into a rage out of humiliation. "So you were just teasing me just now?" She instantly said goodbye in a coquettish manner. "Okay, since no one heard it, I might as well do it again." "Are you serious? I've been holding it in for a long time." Chu Yang begged for mercy but to no avail. Thus he directly started to play a rogue move. The moment he used this move, he indeed turned the tide. The situation was instantly reversed. Tai Budian screamed and immediately begged for mercy. Up till now, ZJ still didn't have the energy to get out of bed. It was his first day at his in-laws' house. No matter where the rules were, he had to wake up early to pay his respects. If Chu Yang messed around again, he probably wouldn't be able to do anything until noon. If that was the case, he would really become a big joke. For the next few days, Tai Budian was constantly pestered by Chu Yang. "Are you leaving with me or not? Just leave with me." "Chu Yang, you bastard, are you leaving with me or not? Just leave with me." For the next few days, Tai Budian was pestered by Chu Yang until her heart was in a mess. Unlike his usual self, Chu Yang really pestered her like a sticky candy. "You want to leave? Fine. But you have to leave with me. You have to give me a definite answer." "A negative answer? No." Tai Budian was in a dilemma. How could ZJ bear to abandon her? On one side was the people under ZJ's rule and the heavy responsibility. On the other side was her husband and a happy family. It was hard to abandon either side. But the moment she showed signs of rejection, Chu Yang started to use all kinds of methods. Things that could be used, things that couldn't be used, things that should be used, things that shouldn't be used. Seeing that he really couldn't take it anymore, he directly flew into a rage out of humiliation, and pressed Tai Budian onto the bed, feasting on her. Anyway, Minister Chu had been holding it in for a long time. "You're already under my roof and you still dare to say that you're not willing. Just nice, let me punish you. Let's see if you still dare to refuse." Chapter 1709. From then on, Tai Budian lived a life that she had never even thought of before. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that an emperor of a generation who controlled millions of rivers and mountains in the lower three heavens would actually be bullied like this one day. In the beginning, she was still resisting, struggling, angry and intimidating, but in the end, she didn't even have the strength to resist. The moment she saw Chu Yang's majestic body approaching her, she started to feel flustered, shy and scared. Of course, she didn't see her son these few days, nor did she see Yang Rulin and Chu Failing. Even that old man Ning Qianya was nowhere to be seen. When she asked, she replied that the elder ancestor Chu Xiaoxin had called the child and his grandparents over. Firstly, to protect him, and secondly, to impart a certain supreme secret martial art of the Chu clan. Hearing this answer, Tai Budian was relieved. She knew that an old aristocratic family like the Chu clan had its own unique inheritance. It seemed that her son was still very valued in the Chu clan. Although she couldn't help but feel a little worried, she was more happy. As a mother, What could make her happier than seeing her son being valued by everyone? Wasn't it? Of course, Tai Budian also knew that since she had come to the Chu clan, she shouldn't think of going back in the short term. Fortunately, the lower three heavens was already on track. With Imperial Uncle Tai Longcheng holding the fort, there wouldn't be any problems, at least not in the short term. She would just take it as a vacation here. Also, although a certain someone was very hooligan, overbearing and unreasonable, Tai Budian was still very attached to Chu Yang's warm embrace. If she really didn't go with him, she really didn't know when he would return from this trip to the heavenly imperial court. When they met again in the future, Chu Yang might still be as elegant as before. But whether her hair was gray or she had already become a pile of yellow soil, that was hard to say. Thinking of this, Tai Budian felt a little sad. Sometimes when she saw Chu Yang sleeping soundly at night, she would also cry silently. Although Tai Budian was a woman, she rarely cried. Before she unified Iron Cloud, she had only cried 3 times. The first time was because her father didn't hesitate to massacre the harem to ensure the stability of Iron Cloud. He killed his wife and daughter and hid Tai Butian's female identity, thinking that it was too much to nurture. Tai Budian shed tears for the first time. In the end, her father died because the poison was too deep. Tai Budian shed tears for the second time. As for the third time, it was for Chu Yang. That day, Chu Yang's life was in danger. This was the beginning of this relationship. Tai Budian didn't want Chu Yang to know about it at the start. She had schemed to hide it, and after she succeeded, she shed tears for the third time. However, by now, the Tai Budian who never shed tears had already become a flower of the past. When Iron Cloud was united, her son was her companion. On the surface, she still looked the same as before. She was decisive and bright. She also had the bearing of a ruler that intimidated the lower 3 heavens. However, she was already a little woman in her bones. Especially now, she was behaving like a little woman. In the dead of the night, she would think about the boundless future. She would be full of worries and she would cry from time to time. Time slowly passed day by day. The clear-headed Mo Tianji also felt that something was strange. On the 10th day, he rushed to the Chu clan and asked Chu Yang if he knew what was going on. And why was it like this? Chu Yang was also at a loss now. How would he know what was going on? However, Mo Tianji came at the right time this time. He asked Mo Tianji to bring back some of the more precious medicines such as heavy pills, some purple crystals, souls of purple crystals and so on for his family members in the lower 3 heavens. Mo Tianji stayed for 3 whole days this time. He brought back a lot of gifts. Furthermore, he paid a special visit to 3rd Master Chu Fei Han. 3rd Master Chu and Mo Tianji talked for a long time. 3rd Master Chu was really fond of Mo Tianji, this handsome young man. Mo Tianji was especially polite. His manner of speaking made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Mo Tianji held 3rd Master Chu in high esteem. Intentionally or unintentionally, 3rd Master Chu had already been praised to the heavens. 3rd Master Chu liked it so much that he even proposed to become sworn brothers with Mo Tianji in the end. This gave Mo Tianji, who had ulterior motives, a huge fright. That very afternoon, he took the things that Chu Yang gave him and fled in defeat. Chu Lur personally sent Mo Tianji out. Seeing Mo Tianji leave in such a sorry state, she couldn't help but smile. Chu Yang had already faintly sensed someone's thoughts. Now that he saw Mo Tianji's strange whereabouts and didn't even bring Mo Qinggu along, this made Chu Yang very unhappy. He asked Chu Lur, "Sister, what do you think of Mo Tianji?" "He's all right." Chu Lur didn't comment. "Sister, you have to be more vigilant. This guy eats people without spitting out the bones." Minister Chu fiercely said in front of his sister. "Yes, I know." Chu Lur rolled her eyes at her brother. This seemed to be the first time Chu Lur rolled her eyes at a certain king of hell. This made a certain king of hell hate someone even more. Another half a month passed. The continent gradually stabilized and basically calmed down. However, there were still no signs of Chu Yang and the rest breaking through the void. This time, not only the sharp Chu Yang and Mo Tianji, but even the slow-witted Dong Wushang GMO and the others noticed. Even someone as simple-minded as GMO also noticed this. Everyone felt strange and had thousands of questions in their hearts. Apart from Brother Jie, the Moon Breeze couple even specially came once. Firstly, to ask about this matter. Secondly, to thank Chu Yang. Feng Yuro is finally pregnant. For the Moon Breeze couple, their long-cherished wish had come true and their beautiful dream had finally come true. This was really the happiest thing in the world. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Chu Yang congratulated him again and again. Yu Lingxue couldn't stop smiling. It's all thanks to you that my wish came true, Chu Yang coughed repeatedly. This is really… Your wife's pregnancy is all thanks to me? This… If someone with ulterior motives heard this and casually said a few more words, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the ancestral spirit river. The Chu clan was really lively for a few more days. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Tai Budian finally couldn't hold it in anymore. No matter what you say, I can't take it anymore. At least let me see my son. Otherwise, Chu Yang could only say in a secretive manner, our son actually went back to the lower 3 heavens long ago. Tai Budian was shocked. What? How can it be? What's going on? Cough cough. Minister Chu coughed repeatedly. Our son has gone back to do something big this time. It's to usurp the throne. He should be firmly seated on the throne by now, right? Your Majesty, you should have already been promoted to the throne by now. Tai Budian was completely dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. This was, of course, the little fellow's idea and Chu Yang's instigation. The following was the content of the conversation between a certain delinquent father and son. Little fellow, do you like being the emperor? Asked the father. I love being the emperor the most, said the little fellow. Does your mother want to follow me? Of course she wants to follow you. If she doesn't, she'll be unhappy. What if your mother doesn't want to leave? Are you willing to help me? Of course I'll help you. Then do you want to be the emperor? How about it? I think it's feasible. Then let you usurp the throne? Then let me usurp the throne. In this way the father and son colluded and hit it off. Then, together with Feng Qiliang, who had a favor to ask of Chu Yang, and Ning Qianya, who had been bribed by the title of state preceptor, went to the lower 3 heavens with Tai Yang, Yang Rulan and Chu Feiling. To usurp the throne. Chu Yang wasn't worried about this baby of his at all. Firstly, this fellow was extremely intelligent and mischievous. Secondly, he had Tai Longcheng's loyal support. Thirdly, Ning Qianya was his state preceptor. Fourthly, Feng Qiliang was his chief imperial bodyguard. Fifthly, the Chu clan was secretly protecting him. With these 5 conditions, even if a country was a block of wood standing on the throne, it would still be stable. In fact, Ning Qianya alone was enough to fulfill these conditions. A supreme martial artist at the peak of grade 3 becoming the state preceptor of the lower 3 heavens. Who would dare to rebel? Even if it was an army of 100,000, as long as state preceptor Ning was willing to take action. It would be no exaggeration to say that it was as easy as flipping one's hand. Never would Tai Budian have imagined that her trip out would actually result in her being plotted against by her son, husband and in-laws. Now that her escape route had been blocked, there was definitely no hope for her to ascend the throne. Although she heard the sad news of the great Emperor Butian's death, Tai Budian still insisted on going back to the lower 3 heavens with Chu Yang. They had just arrived at the lower 3 heavens, but as far as the eye could see, they saw white flags that covered the sky and covered the earth. Everywhere was mourning the death of the great Emperor Butian. From the mourning, one could see how important the great Emperor Butian was to the people. Tai Budian was stunned on the spot. At this moment she was still dressed as a woman. On the way back to Ironcloud Citadel, she saw countless people still crying bitterly, grieving the death of the great Emperor Tai Budian. Many elderly people were telling their children and grandchildren about the great feats of heaven-mending great Emperor. After unifying the lower 3 heavens, he worked hard day and night. He made the Ironcloud Citadel prosper day by day. However, he fell ill and passed away. If not for the fact that there was still a young emperor, the huge Ironcloud Citadel would have fallen apart. However, the young emperor left behind by the great Emperor Butian was really amazing. When he was born, he was accompanied by auspicious signs and was blessed by the heavens. He was smart and wise from a young age. Now that he was only 4 years old, he already had the demeanor of a ruler. Although he ascended the throne at a young age, he had the loyal Prince Regent Tai Longcheng as his assistant. He even had the legendary #1 expert Ning Qianya as his imperial advisor. The magnificent Ironcloud Citadel could take another step forward. Hearing the voices of the people, Tai Budian really didn't know how to react. This subtle feeling was really indescribable. The new emperor granted amnesty to the people after ascending the throne. Tai Budian looked at the imperial notice posted on the streets. The policies of the new emperor were very attractive and clear. According to Tai Butian's understanding of the court officials, there were some measures that even she didn't mention. These were definitely not the ideas of these people. Could it be that this little guy came up with them? Chapter 17:10. These imperial measures are all very good. With Tai Butian's foresight, she could tell at a glance the benefits of the new imperial proclamation. Firstly, it could make the people remember the late emperor without limit, thus increasing the cohesion of the imperial family among the people to the greatest extent. Secondly, it could greatly arouse the people's confidence in the new emperor and fill them with longing for the future. With these two as a foundation, she believed that no matter what decree it was in the future, it would be able to be passed smoothly. Besides, it would also greatly reduce the resistance of the big clans. Even Tai Butian, the talented and bold emperor of her generation, would also be amazed and full of praise. She would even admit her inferiority. Up ahead was Tai Longcheng's residence. The two of them walked over. After a long time after leaving Tai Longcheng's residence, Tai Butian was obviously much more relaxed. As if that heavy burden had finally been lifted from her shoulders, she looked radiant all at once. Chu Yang, from now on, don't call me your majesty anymore. I'm just your woman. Tai Butian's eyes were filled with tears. I'm no longer some emperor, no longer have any other identity. Thinking of the pressure all these years, Tai Butian burst into tears. But she was still a little worried. It's just that, can the child take it? He's still so young. What do you think? You're worrying too much. Chu Yang asked, what kind of place is the lower three heavens? With Ning Qianya as his imperial advisor, even in the upper three heavens, it's enough for him to dominate. Not to mention that he's our son, how can he be given it for free? That's true. Tai Butian smiled through her tears. It's just that it's really hard to imagine that Elder Ning would actually agree to this. I still feel like I'm dreaming. Her? Our son is not simple. Chu Yang rolled his eyes. If there were no benefits, why would Ning Qianya care about this? Since he agreed, there must be a reason behind it. But that's not something we should worry about. Our children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. Okay. Tai Butian leaned into Chu Yang's arms weakly. Thank you. This time the Chu clan has done too much for me. Chu Yang hugged her and said softly, you're my baby? What's wrong with doing all this? Shouldn't I? To be honest, Tai Butian didn't really care about the throne. To her, the throne had always been just a responsibility and a promise. Now that she was no longer the empress, it was as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. As for the promise she made that day, she had already fulfilled it. However, with Tai Yang's status, there was really no need for him to be the so-called emperor. He was the son of the current Calamity Sword Master of the Chu clan of Upper Three Heavens. How illustrious was this identity? How could a mere emperor of the lower three heavens be mentioned in the same breath? Especially now that the Calamity Sword Master ruled the world. Without a doubt, his son should also be a great person who soared to the heavens. Don't look at Tai Yang's young age. Even if he didn't know anything, as long as he revealed his identity in the upper three heavens, who would dare to make a move? In order to fulfill the relationship between Tai Butian and Chu Yang, the Chu clan easily made Tai Yang the emperor. It was obvious how much effort they had put in. Now that he saw Tai Yang like this, he could be considered wise and promising. While Tai Butian was very grateful for the consideration of the Chu clan, she was also very relieved that she finally had a successor. Chu Yang and his wife sneaked into the imperial palace without making a sound. They saw that the little guy was handling state affairs in a very serious manner. Tai Butian went forward and taught him a lesson as usual. She picked up the little fellow who plotted to usurp the throne and placed him on her lap, giving him a good beating. Such a little fellow actually plotted to usurp the throne. Of course, she didn't use much strength. Looking at this fair and tender little fellow, Tai Butian still couldn't believe it. Tai Butian was still in disbelief. It was just this little fellow. He actually plotted to usurp the throne and even caused the death of the great Emperor Butian. And after becoming the emperor, he even sat on the bench naked. He was a proper emperor. Looking at him, Tai Butian couldn't help but admit that there were some things that even she couldn't think of. Was this still a little brat who wasn't even 5 years old? How monstrous was he? Why did you do this? Don't you want to follow your father to the heaven palace? Wouldn't the sky be wider there? Tai Butian asked. There's no meaning there. At least there's no meaning to me now. The little fellow blinked. When I want to go up, I can go up at any time. But I definitely don't want to go up now. So I'll just take it as filial piety so that father won't be able to sleep alone. Chu Yang's face was as calm as water, but he was overjoyed. Good son, you're really my son. You know how to care for your father at such a young age. How obedient and filial. Tai Butian, on the other hand, felt dizzy. The little fellow said it too casually. That was the legendary Heaven Palace, the final destination of all martial artists in the world. Why did it sound like it was a place that one could go up whenever they wanted to and not if they didn't want to? Could it be that the Heaven Palace was so worthless now that one could go up whenever they wanted? Besides, how did this fellow know so much? Actually, there's still a little. Previously, I saw how awe-inspiring Mother was when she ruled over the people. So I also want to try being an emperor. The little guy said in all seriousness, "Mother, please don't worry. I want to be an unprecedented emperor in the Double Heavens continent. Not only do I want to unify the lower three heavens, I also want to unify the upper three heavens. I want the whole world to become a country. All the people in the world must submit to my rule." Looking at this young and tender face, both of them were a little shocked. Chu Yang and Tai Budian were a little shocked by this ambition. Even Tai Budian definitely didn't have this kind of ambition. After talking to Ning Qianya, both of them were finally relieved. Chu Feiling and Yang Rulan were also here. With the full support of the Chu clan, if Tai Yang still couldn't be an emperor, that would be really unbelievable. The next thing to do was for Chu Yang to start raising Tai Butian's cultivation with all his might. Tai Budian, who had no more worries, naturally let go of all her worries and focused on improving. "My Majesty, don't think that you have nothing to do now that you're no longer an emperor. After we go to the Heaven Palace, all the internal affairs including all the external affairs will be managed by you. You have an important role to play." Chu Yang said, "That's our real stage." Tai Budian agreed solemnly. She knew that Chu Yang was definitely not saying empty words or just saying perfunctory words to brush her off. After reaching the Heaven Palace, a new challenge would begin immediately. And at that time, they would have to start from nothing and gradually conquer the world. Conquering the world of the Heaven Palace step by step. The difficulty of that couldn't be compared to the Heaven Palace now. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. It was really too difficult. But the more difficult it was, the more challenging it would be, the more fun it would be, and the greater the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction after achieving it. Fighting with the heavens was endless fun. Fighting with the earth was endless fun. Fighting with people was endless fun. This was the principle. At that time, everyone's road ahead would definitely be full of thorns. What Chu Yang had to do was naturally to cut through the thorns, open up the road ahead and be in charge of fighting. And stabilizing the rear and controlling the overall situation undoubtedly fell on him. At the same time that Tai Budian felt the pressure again, she also felt a burst of excitement. All these years, her cultivation hadn't improved, but all the foundations had long been laid. Because Tai Budian wanted to save Chu Yang, who was poisoned that day, she gave up her virginity and even lost an extremely rare icy heart talent. It was only when she gave birth to Tai Yang that she happened to have the help of a heavy pill. She broke through and then stood up again, transforming into the icy heart jade bone body that had never been seen before in the history of the Heaven Palace. Her cultivation aptitude was absolutely unparalleled. From what Chu Yang knew, it was only slightly below Mo Qingwu's innate body. Previously, because she was busy with state affairs and taking care of little Tai Yang, her cultivation was delayed and her progress was relatively slow. Now, with Chu Yang's full support, and in order to let Tai Budian improve even more, Chu Yang didn't hesitate to use the Moon Breeze dual cultivation technique that he had obtained from Wu Qianqian. Her icy heart jade bone foundation had long reached the realm of complete perfection. At present, although it was just like a dried-up pond, as long as Chu Yang poured in a large amount of clear water, this pond could directly become a boundless harbor. During this period of time, Tai Butian's cultivation had been steadily and rapidly improving at a tremendous pace. Chu Yang brought Tai Budian and the two of them traveled for a few more days in the lower three heavens. They even specially made a trip to Beyond the Heavens sect to visit Wu Yinliang and the others. After Chu Feiling and Yang Rulan checked out the lower three heavens, they followed Tai Budian and returned to the upper three heavens. After traveling continuously, the husband and wife didn't feel tired at all. Instead, they were filled with a faint melancholy of parting. They knew clearly that when Chu Yang was completely at ease, it would probably be time to leave. Unknowingly, 2.5 months had already passed since the last battle with the Dharma Supreme. On this day, Chu Yang suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of uneasiness. Suddenly, the entire sky above the heavenly layer continent was filled with dark clouds in a very short period of time. The entire clear sky was completely covered up. That vast and mighty power of heaven and earth finally came crashing down. Has the time finally come? When Chu Yang and Tai Budian were bidding farewell to their family members for the last time, Mo Tianji, who also sensed it, rushed to the Chu clan with Mo Qingwu. This time, Mo Qingwu formally paid her respects to Chu Feiling and Yang Rulan, as well as the ancestors of the Chu clan as their daughter-in-law. At the same time, within a radius of 10,000 miles in the lower three heavens, incense and candles were everywhere. Hundreds of millions of people were devoutly worshipping. This day, under the insistence of the Iron Cloud Great Emperor, was designated as the most solemn festival of the future generations, the Day of Opening the Heavens. All the big clans in the lower three heavens also worshipped their ancestors, burned incense and prayed. Chu Yang, Mo Qingwu, Tai Budian, Chu Le, Tan Tan and Xie Danfeng walked out of the gate of the Chu clan's old residence at the same time. Everyone came to send them off. Meng Chaoran and Chu Xiaoxin were also there. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.